green spaces and recreational parks and pedestrian-friendly streetscapes. A 30,000 square foot cruise terminal hosting 3 post-Panamax cruise ships. Designed to welcome over 1 million visitors annually. It redefines Trinidad and Tobago's gateway to the world. A new gateway for efficient, comfortable, and accessible transport. Connecting communities and harmonizing land, sea, and rail for fluid movement. Swift, radiant, and impossibly light, the Hummingbird dances through the landscape, inviting passengers to greet each day with eyes wide to possibility. It is a symbol of hope in motion, a thread of joy woven into the nation's rhythm. The re-engineered port facility integrates dry docking and advanced warehousing infrastructure with light manufacturing zones, a cutting-edge training and simulation center, regulatory offices, and a dedicated union headquarters. Designed for efficient operations and seamless logistics, the port city positions Port of Spain as the Southern Caribbean's premier transshipment hub, where global trade meets local innovation. See Lots Industrial Park and Free Trade Zone. Modernized port governance hub with enhanced operational efficiency. An international health city in Port of Spain will feature state-of-the-art towers dedicated to diabetes, oncology, cardiac, and clinical services. These will also host a world-class training center positioning Trinidad and Tobago as a regional leader in medical education and care. By fostering the exchange of knowledge and expertise among healthcare professionals and enabling collaboration with renowned international medical institutions, this initiative promises to be a transformative asset for our nation's health sector and global standing. As part of our blueprint, we're enhancing the Queen's Park Savannah with respectful, legacy-honoring upgrades that unlock its full potential. The capital is entering a bold new chapter, re-envisioning its waterfront and urban gateways into a vibrant, connected coastal district. A formidable 40-acre national security campus will dominate Mount Hope, unified, strategic, and built for purpose. It will centralize vital operations, eliminate fragmentation, and elevate Trinidad and Tobago's readiness to respond, protect, and prevail. Advancing our focus on national security. We commence Node 7. Tamana, Center for Justice. Moving to the Eastern Plains, the Tamana Prison Campus resides, the largest single infrastructure project in national security history. We have consolidated the existing correctional facilities and proposed redevelopment of the land for mixed-use purposes. This facility will be home to courthouses, prison, and on-site residences with rehabilitation programs for the successful inmate reintegration. Tamana, a center for justice. Next, we shift our focus onto the Remand Yard, Port of Spain, a cornerstone of our revitalization narrative. Once a symbol of confinement, the Boys Jail now stands as a beacon of possibility. Emerging from this will be an arts and cultural center as a dynamic exhibition and events hall. It offers facilities for workshops, conferences, and cultural exchange. This bold transformation honors the past while empowering the future, where creativity, collaboration, and community take center stage. With the forthcoming integration of Carrera Prison into the Tamana program, a strategically positioned islet has emerged as available for redevelopment. This unlocks an exceptional opportunity to create a world-class vacation enclave envisioned with private bungalows, a serene marina, and an elegant boutique hotel designed to captivate discerning travelers. From isolation to inspiration. With the successful consolidation of the Tamana Justice Campus, a remarkable opportunity now unfolds, 280 acres of prime land poised for transformation. This isn't merely excess space, it's a blank canvas for national advancement. We envision a vibrant fusion of residential and commercial development that will serve our people and ignite regional prosperity. From welcoming homes to bustling enterprises and inclusive community spaces, every square foot will be shaped with intention. Node 10 highlights Caroni. A modern racetrack, multi-use recreational and cultural venue awaits. We are proud to unveil Node 11, the central government campus. The aim is to decentralize ancillary government services by relocating them from our bustling capital city to Chaguanas. The CGC will not only host several key ministries like sports and culture, it will also feature a multifunctional event amphitheater. Additionally, the campus will incorporate the Energy Tower. This development will serve as our new central capital city. A nation shaping its future with purpose, one development at a time. Trinidad and Tobago, a global hub, connecting us to the rest of the world.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Yellow is the Code program on UNC USA. I have Mr. Ken Dalchin, our civil engineer, with us here, and we also have Mr. Suman Singh, our lead technical analyst. And I want to welcome you, gentlemen, back to the program. Gentlemen, I mean, this is one magnificent plan of action here, and I'm hearing Brian Manning talking about, oh, that was part of Vision 2020. Where, in which world? Which world that could come near the Vision, that Vision 2020 could come near to that? We're talking about developing the entire Gulf. So, Ken, let me hear you on this since you're the engineer
Well,
on
well, good night, Gary. Good night, Sumant. Good night, everyone. There's a old
Good night,
saying, build
guys.
it and they will come. What I'm seeing there is magnificent. Is exactly what we need in Trinidad. A state-of-the-art cruise ship center to host at least 3 ships at the same time, a modern port where people can check through immigration and customs without the hassle, and they could start enjoying the island. I mean, a cruise ship would dock there for about 4 or 5 hours, right? And you don't want people to have to go through the hassle of, trying to stumble their way around the island. It should be there, very easy accessible, where transportation is there, readily available to take them around to different sites. And we need to build the infrastructure to facilitate this. So that's one. I like the arts and cultural center, the transformation of that
Mhm.
remand yard, that once historic prison that was built, I think in the early 1900s. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, it would give Port of Spain a different facelift, if so to speak, where artists could come and display their work. We could have some of our artistic works on display there. We could invite regional artists to come and have a art exhibit and so forth. And all of this will add to our tourism sector, you know. But Gary, we have to prepare and Sumant, we have to prepare the island for this development. We have to upgrade our roads, our drainage systems. We have to address the flooding. And I think we will, because we are heading on the right path. We are assembling a good team to go out and scout and assess and make these proposals while the rest of the development is happening the feasibility studies by all the different consultants and so forth. But yeah, this is very optimistic. It's a great plan. It's a magnificent plan, and it would really give the island that extra lift to where we're supposed to be. Um, but yeah, Sumant, you want to chime in there?
Yes,
Hello?
I like the Chinese. Yes, are you hearing? You
I'm
talk-
Yeah,
hearing
go
you.
ahead, Suman. Go ahead.
Right. You know, one thing that struck me is that whole cruise port terminal. You know, I'm a tourism guy, so um, the way I see it, that when a boat lands to try to take a lot of tourist Maracas, and walking in Port of Spain can be a treacherous thing, as we all know. So you see where the jail is, where they're removing that remand yard from there. I would strongly like to see a cultural center, which is what is planned. But let the carnival exhibits be there permanently. So when a cruise ship dock, it's within walking distance from the port to the facility there in Frederick Street. And let that be a microcosm of what the actual carnival is. So it replicates the carnival, all the wire bending, the various costumes, the pan music, and the jump up and so on. We should just be whetting their appetite for something like that, and that is how the cruise tourism industry functions. Because in every single island, when these boats hop around, they can't see everything. They have a limited time to spend onshore. So you want to condense, as Ken rightly said, as easy and simple and quickly as possible, because their time is limited. So by having that microcosm of carnival and other cultural activities and culinary things and so on, you can whet the appetite of these cruisers who come down, and encourage them now to come for a longer stay with their families and so on. So that's a good move. I really endorse that, and I like that idea, to have that carnival village, that whole cultural village close to the cruise port, where we can showcase TNT talent at least, anytime we have boats. And as if you travel up there, Caribbean, you see how, you go to St. Martin, is 5 and 6 cruise boats every day. St. Croix is the same thing, 3 and 4. We just sometimes get 1 and 2, maybe 2. Tobago, on the other hand, gets a couple. I think they got 42 last year. So it's an industry where we can pick up with, and to modernize the city. I mean, bring it up to 21st century speed. We back in the early 50s and 60s, as far as Port of Spain goes. They need to redo the entire Port of Spain up. I will say, from, if you know Port of Spain well, from where the President House is, on the Queen's Park Savannah, right down to South Key. It has to be redone, and all these, water, piping, water and sewage, drainage, it's a complete new city you have to build out. And that will require a lot of engineering works, realignment, and so on too. So a lot of back-end work has to be done. Sometimes it may have to be done concurrently, but I like to see most of it done before we start this massive redevelopment exercise.
Welcome, Dr. Ramrup. Dr.
With that,
Ramrup in the house.
Hi guys. Hi, Suman.
Hi, Dr. Rama. Good
yeah,
night.
hi, Doc. Yes. So, all in all, the plan is very attractive, and it will take a lot of convincing the local population and changing patterns of behavior and all this sort of thing will need to. We have to start thinking first of all. We have to start thinking first of all. And we just can't say, oh, look at Dubai, look at Singapore. We can be our own Dubai and Singapore right here.
Well, that is the ultimate goal, right? That is the ultimate goal, and that should have been done. And PNM had the audacity to talk. What did they do with the bulk of our money? They have nothing really to show. This thing should have been done already, you know. But I want to congratulate our Prime Minister on pushing this idea. I mean, she have taken a lot what we said, and put it together. And we just have to make sure things flow nicely. We're creating the infrastructure in a way there's easy access in and out. Those air trains will come in handy. Also, can
definitely.
definitely we'll have to do that, and that causeway falls right into play. So making ease of access and the accommodation, the park and ride, and safety and security number one. And comes cleanliness, maintaining a clean environment. So like I said, there'll be 50 times 50,000 jobs. It's more than 50,000 jobs to be looking at here. This is more than 50,000 jobs.
Yeah.
This
is way more than 50,000 jobs.
Correct.
Permanent jobs.
One thing, we have to change the mentality of people. This is the younger generation coming up has to be thinking that the thinking has to be different now. You can't be.
Well, you have to do that by education. You cannot rely. You cannot allow the PNM media to play out and confuse people of what you're trying to do. We have seen that too many times in our most recent time with welcome Nadira and welcome Sal. Lindsay is in the house and everyone that's listening. So we have to keep on with the educating part of things where that's like what we're doing here. We broadcast it and reiterate what we are trying to do. Go ahead.
And central to all of this, Gary, is that we have to have continuity. So the legislation is critical for this thing to happen. In fact, I would like to say that this should be the first step to pass legislation, regardless of whoever comes into government. These projects have to be continued. It cannot be like white elephants. And let's say, God forbid, there's a change of government. Everything is just stand down. Look at the Point Fortin Highway right here. 10 years and it's still not completed because of a change of government. And this is...
I strongly agree with that.
This is the first, and these things are embedded in planning. Like you go to Dubai and Singapore and these places. This is the planning. Whichever government takes stream, and you will be measured. You will be measured automatically how much you have done or accomplished, because we know the overall structure of the plan. The various plans, including the highway, the rehabilitation centers, and the San Fernando waterfront project and the highways and so on all over the place. So continuity must be entrenched through the legislation. If that is not done, we can very well end up, and God forbid that, with 10 white elephants in the island, should there be a change in the government. So that safeguard is critical, in my opinion.
That is a very good point, Samad. Because it's a waste of taxpayers' money when you leave these projects half undone, right? Because it starts to deteriorate after 5 years, 10 years, whatever, right? And let's just look at the we had a hospital, the Covert Children's Hospital there, right? This was being underutilized, and Dr. Ramrap could probably chime in and say a few words about that also.
Yes. I mean that. Yeah. I mean, what you're saying is definitely it's just repeating what Samantha is saying. Which government had actually built the Brian Lara? Who started the Brian Lara?
I think it was done in the 2010, 2015 period. It started there.
Mm-hmm. That was it PNM initiated the Brian Lara or UNC or People's
No, I
Party?
think PNM initiated it.
Okay.
And there had some massive cost overruns and so on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there were
yeah.
design flaws and what have you. And
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So the fact that they didn't continue what the UNC built, and then they had to use it for the cricket, I guess. I don't know. I can't remember the history of Brian Lara, but it's a big problem when we have cricket there. And I see the Honorable Prime Minister has put a stop on FETs at the Brian Lara,
Correct.
which is very
Yeah, but
interesting. I don't know how
but
that
Dr.
will
Arab,
turn out, but we'll see how it goes. Yeah.
yeah, but Dr. Arab Suman made a good point there. If you're building a structure and there are design flaws, right, it means that it's unsafe.
Yeah.
And there are structures that were built in Trinidad
Yeah.
that had to be remediated and retrofitted,
Yeah.
right? Because I don't even want to mention that, but without getting the proper facts. But we have to do it right. And I want to jump to international example with that bridge that collapsed in China.
China.
Right?
Yeah.
Bridge was built perfect, high quality, everything, within time. But the pre-construction survey was rushed because there's a quest, an urge to develop that country. The bridge areas that were very remote and inaccessible. But we have to also do it right. Right? And by doing it right, we are going to return value for money. We don't have to go back and remediate and fix and stuff, Like, for example, the Mosquito Creek again. Let's talk about the Mosquito Creek. Or we could talk about Sandy Grande, that highway in Sandy Grande. Right? Let's do it right. Let's ensure that it is done properly, the quality is there, and we're getting value for money.
Well, that's a good question, Ken. Value for money, and how is that measured? Generally the contractors go, you have a retainer fee and so on. One wonders, you never hear about these things, that they're supposed to maintain the road at least before they pay the retainer fees, or at least 2 years and what have you. Any defects and so on has to be remedied by the contractor. These things are never enforced, or you don't see them. What happens when the contractors roll up his sleeve? I said, nah, boy, he's another party. They let him take care of that. These things, the enforceability is not there. And I have to be still convinced. Unless there's legislation, these things can turn out to be really white elephants. It can really be so. But if there's a change in government, because this sort of planning, the foresight is quite good, is to bring Trinidad and Tobago into the 21st century. I like that. I like the plan. I like the initiatives and so on. But let's be real. Everything has to be done, in a manner which will survive political changes.
Well, one of the things that we saw after the PNM won the election is that when you drive around, there were quite a number of schools that were left, for bush to grow over them, although they were near completion, right? And the Cuba Hospital wasn't open. The Point Fortin Highway it's almost like they stole all the materials before they even started back something there. I mean, it was really, when you see your money that you work so hard to. I mean, every day I used to work in a hospital. Sometimes I'm called 3 days a week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, when everybody, linemen and things, we on call, seeing patients, and you're working your ass out, and then you're seeing your money, people stealing your materials in that highway and buildings. When you pass Marabella, you see a big building on your left hand side, just you know, unfinished, right? Malcolm Jones building there, that big building in Pointe-a-Pierre there by the refinery, neck where you can see it from the highway, you know. And when you think about all of these things, it's almost like history repeating itself. So I feel very happy when I look at some of the pictures, and I already documented Mr. Prakash Ramada had sent in the PDF file with the with the with the um, with the visionary plans of the UNC, and I am a bit happy, but at the same time, like Sumant is saying, I feel that we have to be very careful at some of the things that we are doing and how some of our colleagues are going about it. I do not know if people understand that these buildings have to be filled with people to work, right? Would I'm sure they will create employment, right? And then you have a hospital where you're going to be opening a tourist hospital where people could come for healthcare from all over the world, all right?
Mhm.
And in order to do that, your basic healthcare system must be good. As a doctor in the hospital setting since 1985, when I came out of UWI, I have been a medical doctor in the system, right? Only left 2011 to go ODPM, but almost, 40 years in the system. And when you think about the, my son is there now. He's a doctor in San Fernando Hospital. And when he tells me some of the things, and when you go in hospital to see some of your patients and you see some of the things, you see a child who dies in a pediatric ward with 11 doctors on the ward, and there was no code, blue, right, on a intercom with a proper crash team to come, right, to intubate this child, and there was no system in place. You have persons who are getting heart attacks in Trinidad even at the age of 45. Just a couple of days ago, one of my patients' relatives died. They called the ambulance, and the ambulance took long to come. When the ambulance did come, you have basic medical technicians on board. And if you're going to have a tourist hospital with providing care in the next 10 to 15 years, two things are important. One, you have to get your current healthcare system in operation and pretty much on par with international best practice, right? The standards must be there. So you have to get that up and going. And the second thing about it is that you would have to have the ability to plan ahead for the next 5 to 15 years. And as we are saying, we have to sustain this party, because if another party comes, you stand the risk of, as you said, as Sumant is saying, putting up white elephants. So I'm a bit scared because, I mean, I am a presentation college graduate, San Fernando, right? And I am part of the planning of a FET every year that we have to raise funds for the school, right? And we left presentation because of the way that it's very close to a lot of residential areas now. And we went to Brian Lara, right? Naparima College San Fernando has done the same thing, so that you're moving out from the residential areas and you're going into an area, the only area available. And then all of a sudden, a few residents in that area complain, and then we shut off the feds. So I am not saying that it is not, because I myself have a dancehall license, and I are living very close to the Honorable Prime Minister. And my license had to change over the past 5 years because of the residents complaining of noise by my place. So I have had to lose revenue because when I built the place, it had very few people. And
Mhm.
now, over the last 10 years, the place has grown. So I obviously had to adapt, right? And the magistrate gave me very stringent regulatory practices where I can't have any event after 10:30 in the night with very loud music, and I can't have any loud music in my place, on a public holiday like on a Sunday and all this sort of thing. So very, very severe restrictions, So when once we do something like that, we have to provide an alternative, and I hope that like in Canada, when we go to some of these fetes in the middle of the night, is way out in a piece of
Right.
land that is far away from everybody. So maybe we need to find places, in the areas south or wherever there's a lot of land that is far away from any planned residences. Town and country would have to step in and advise. So all of this must be taken into the context of what is going to happen with these plans that Minister John and the team has for going forward. Right? We mentioned access. If you're going to be putting up all these buildings in San Fernando and Port of Spain, clearly you're going to have more traffic. I mean, I went to see some patients in Valsain yesterday, and I was stuck for 3 hours in traffic. There were 3 accidents on the highway. I left at 8 o'clock to see patients for 9:30, and I didn't reach there till 12 because of 3 accidents on the highway and 3 bumper to bumper where everybody's slowing down to watch the accident. So if you're gonna go to these big fancy stuff in San Fernando that you're opening, and this very big fancy tourist center in San Fernando with all of these fancy things, and you're taking 6 hours to get into. I don't know if anybody ever drives to San Fernando now. You see a line of traffic, right, to go into all the ramps to get into San Fernando, all the ramps. And if you're driving from San Fernando to go Point Pierre in the evening, the ramp to go into Point Pierre, it's long. I mean, what I'm telling you, it's extremely long. So we're gonna have to deal with some of the issues that will let people vote for us again. And as I keep hoping that people listen to us in this forum, you can build the best buildings. You can have the most beautiful buildings of all. But if the people are not going to support you, if another party comes in, if you don't have the people to put in it, and if you don't have the backup plans and systems that are basic needs of the people, it is the basic needs of the people that wins the election. It's not the fancy buildings. And I'm not putting a damper. I'm not making it look bad. I am all for it. I am a UNC. I'm yellow is the code. I support it. I am happy about it. But I'm just saying that, I mean, when you are a surgeon like myself and you're going to do an operation on the hip or the spine, you are in an operating theater. You don't have the luxury of going down to buy a part or a piece of equipment down the road in a hardware and stopping the operation to come back. You have to plan that operation in such a way that you take care of all the contingencies. And for 30 years as an orthopedic surgeon doing big surgeries, that is a basic part of my life. So I don't have to go in if I'm replacing a hip and I measure 30 on the X-ray. When I go in is a 32. If I don't have that 32 in the operation, crap will smoke my part, the patient in trouble, and I can't go down the road and buy a 32 right away and put it in. That's the point I'm making. So what we have to do, generic, I mean, Sumant, you understand what I'm talking about. We have to balance the scorecard. You have to balance the dashboard. You have to balance what I'm saying. Yes, while we're building all of these fancy buildings, we have to get the basics right. And fundamental to all of that, we have to always factor in a very important piece of the pillar, right, of yellow is the code. That is to keep that party strong, to keep the current membership satisfied, right, to maintain the other members or other people who voted for you in this last election, and to also cater for the other electors or the other part of the electorate who are going to have to vote us back in because of how we perform over the next 5 years. We have to be very careful that we understand why people win elections in Trinidad and why we lose elections. Right?
That's it.
According to some pundits, we don't win an election, we lose an election. And therefore, we have to be very careful when you analyze the UNC of the past. We never really won an election. We joined up with another set of people and we formed the NAR. Right? When then after that, when Pandey won, he just won by a very short margin, and three of those ministers were very iffy, and they had to go to court. Then we had a election. There was a tie, and then you know what happened after that, right? So People's Partnership was the one government that actually took a landslide, and this UNC. So we have to now make sure that we maintain that and look at what happened to the People's Partnership. We did all of those things all over the country. I mean, I myself was in ODPM, and I wouldn't like to say we really changed that place. We were actually going somewhere. And then it was a shock to lose the election after that because of what? We did so much good things. Why did we lose the election? We have to keep asking that questions because as we saying, you could put all the big buildings, you could boy Ken, you could go and fix all the flooding, right? All you could make it so much that people could actually live with the flooding because you could never cater for that one, that 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000 event. The problem is that there will always be the black swan. The black swan is something that we must always cater for in mathematics and physics in our daily lives. There's going to be one thing. There will be one thing there that will throw us off. And that is what we must all cater for somehow. And that is really has nothing to do with buildings. It has nothing to do with money. It has nothing to do with competencies. It has to do with spirituality and resilience, right? That is what makes the difference. And that is the science of communities. That's the science that we have found in our literature, in our research, and all major catastrophic events of the past. It's not about anything else but the people themselves and their ability to be resilient. And therefore, one of the most important things that we have to do as a team here is that major part of what we are doing is that we're going to have to build resiliency in our communities. And I think that one of the most important things the party has to do is to understand that. The Prime Minister has to be very careful about her advisors because you have thousands and thousands of young people who go to these feds. Good. You have lawsuits that are going to be filed, right, by people who are making millions of dollars from these feds and who have already gotten approvals for these feds, right? And they have actually gone to magistrates and have been gotten approval. And if that is the case, legally they have a right to do that. So if somebody is saying that the infrastructure is not good, then they have to get that infrastructure right because they have already given approval for the people to have those feds. Tickets have already been sold. Carnival is just a few weeks away. So again, I mean, I know the Prime Minister is a lawyer, an attorney, senior counsel, and UNC has a lot of attorneys, so they may have advised her well. But there are voters as well. There are people there who are, if you look at the TikTok now, you will see there are people who are coming out of the cracks now and they're not happy with this, right? So they have to be very careful about decision making going forward. It's all well to change, but it has to be gradual. It has to have negotiations. You have to have people on board. You have to bring stakeholders together. You have to have the same town meetings that you had before elections, and then decisions are made. So we have to be careful. I am just a bit worried that some of the decisions that have been made are too harsh and too fast, and in the context of where we want to go, right, we could have some problems with our basics.
I think definitely an alternate has to be provided. I was addressing an issue in Sandy Grande there, and where you have a situation where the vendors were selling on the sidewalk. And I guess they decided after a number of years they're not going to allow it because it's causing some problems. But some people need to make a living, but we need to provide an alternate. I understand the safety issue. Could be relevant where the police feel is necessary, but there must be discretion in how we operate. We have to operate with discretion. It is an abrupt decision. You must provide an alternate. And there is the promise of dealing with the, how to say, the noise issue. Because we are becoming doing things very helter skelter in the country. everything goes everywhere, and I understand that from the prime minister point that she's trying to provide, to bring on some kind of rules and regulation at the same
Mm.
time where we take certain things into consideration because the way we
Yeah.
conducting, we fit in. We don't care
Yeah.
who dropped dead. We fit in. That's how we operate in the country.
Like when you go when
That
I go
boombox could
to
give you a heart attack,
yeah
and they don't care because they
I
fit
went
in
to
all night.
yeah, I went to Matticur the other day in Canada, right? And when it was 11 o'clock, the police came and they say, listen, all you load down our music and otherwise you got shut all you down. So 11 o'clock in that community was the legal time that you could play music to interfere with anybody. Nobody complained, but for somehow the police passed. So the thing about it is that that's a culture they have there. That doesn't build. When you go to fed something, you go away from communities. You don't. So we have to get there.
Yeah,
And
we
yeah,
fail to provide,
yeah,
and we allowed the PNM have allowed the
yeah.
lawlessness to
Yes,
go to the extreme.
yes. We
You
have
know,
to.
Mhm.
We have to
you
do
know.
that. But the
So,
culture,
the
the
people,
culture.
it becomes the norm for the people. So now
Yeah,
we are disrupting the norm, and I
yeah.
keep saying we didn't go into government to maintain the status quo. So yes, we're going to disrupt the status quo.
Yeah, we have to. I think we clearly have to provide some alternatives, and we
Yeah.
have to face it. We have to face it.
There's
We
some
have to
kind of
face it.
savannah,
Yeah,
someplace away from
yeah,
the
yeah.
community that we can, and we
It
could
wouldn't take.
make that.
It wouldn't take long for the Ministry of Local Government and maybe Ministry of Works to find a place, that is far away from
Or take
persons.
some D6
Yeah,
and clear and make a
yeah.
clearing.
We have quarries and we have Lake
Yeah,
Hasselford and whatever. Use our resources and
yeah.
suggest an alternative, create an alternative, make sure you make some like and if you go to Disney World and you see the extent of the acreage there and how they
Mhm.
have all these parks, all the different cartoon characters parks, so you can go in and park in Donald Duck, in lane 5A5 and
But also we don't
yeah,
put song barriers. You notice
yeah,
we don't put song barriers. We have no
yeah.
song barriers. So
Yes, even,
it's
even in our buildings, even in some of our buildings, Ken, you talked about retrofitting. I mean, there are a lot of buildings that we can begin, like in these areas, to use retrofitting, in terms of soundproof walls and sound barriers and whatever it is, and these are things that could be offered as alternatives at Brian Lara. In the meantime, for residents who are very close to the area, right? I mean, people have to. It's carnival. It's a culture of carnival. So as I said, I feel if stakeholders were brought together and maybe have a discussion, right? I think that certain things, can be done in a phased way, and we could get to where we want. So
when
that
I
by
was
next
growing
year
up,
carnival,
them guys, when rockers came out and them very big large box. This
yeah.
thing was about maybe 2 miles off the street from me, but it was rocking, vibrating my home.
And I tell you,
Mhm.
I know because I mean, listen, I have a dancehall license at my place, right? And for years I used to have big fets outside, right? And I used to be in my house because I had to be here, to make sure everything was all right and whatever. And my whole house was vibrating, and at some point in time, I used to say, oh my God, I'm not gonna do this again." But when the time comes around and you have to, pay your bills and whatever and your mortgage, you try to make money because that's what we have to do. You have a source of revenue which sustains you, and that is what happens. The carnival industry and these fets, quite a lot of persons make their whole year's money out of that, and that's revenue, that's income. I mean, it's whatever you like it. I think people spend money, $3,000-4,000 for one ticket for some of these fets, and I mean, we fix our schools and we do all of that with that money because we don't get enough money from government to fix the college. So this is what we use on an annual basis to put back into the school. So the thing about it is that NAPRIMA does the same thing. So I feel that in the context of the conversation that I joined, where we are looking at improved buildings and this vision that we have, it comes back to what Gary is talking about and what Ken is talking about, Sumat and the team. We have to make sure that our causeways are taking place at the same time as our planning for these big buildings in Port of Spain and whatever, right? We have to make sure that our healthcare system, right, is improved, and we have to make sure that our emergency health system and ambulance system, right, is also improved to take care of. You can't be telling people you bring in a first world healthcare system here when you're not converting your ambulance system from a basic system to a paramedic system. You can't do that. No big insurance company in the US, North America, or Europe would invest or pay any healthcare system here, right, to send their patients from here to have rehabilitation on the beach, right, if you cannot provide a, a ambulance service that is a paramedic service for these people should they get a cardiac arrest on the beach. You understand what I'm saying? So the thing about it is that we don't even have defibrillators in our airports. We don't have defibrillators in our banks, right? People who are going for pension on a Friday evening in banks have no washrooms in 90% of our banks. They don't even have washrooms.
Defibrillator,
Yeah.
you know how nobody trying to use it.
The point about
That's
it
the
is that
next thing.
Well,
the defibrillators of today are smart defibrillators where any
any,
person could put it on there.
correct.
The problem is what happens after you get that hard working. You see, that's the trick. It's not the technology. The technology is good. Anybody, you should have one. In America, you have one, you put it on your heart, it gets you where you're going. The problem now is when the guys come to take it to the center of excellence, they have to have the capability to keep that heart beating. And that is where the difference between a basic and a paramedic is. The paramedic legally can put up a drip and give you medications to keep that heart ticking. And that's the difference. The basic guy cannot put up a drip legally and cannot administer medicine legally. And that's the
Mhm.
big difference. So your heart will die. So your defibrillator might get it beaten, but there is no way it will reach the hospital. You understand? So this has to change. And therefore, while we have been talking on this program long before this visionary ideas came, all we are saying, Samant, is we're not saying anything different and we're not putting it down. We love it. We want it. But what I'm saying is around that, we have to get our flooding in order. All right, Ken? We have to get our buildings
Definitely.
retrofitted. Right? We have to get our barriers sorted out. We have to get our water reserves, right? Our water catchment
But
areas
but
preserved.
Ken, before you put up buildings, right? You have to put drainage and roads in place.
Yes. You have to put your
You have to
toilet
have a
systems,
traffic
your sewer
plan, a
systems
drainage
in
plan
place,
approved.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So that
So
is part of the overall
your
feasibility and
infrastructure,
So
planning.
your
what
infrastructure
again?
and planning has to be good. Yeah.
And again, what I'm seeing is that these things will take this literally next 4 years to be
It
done,
will
at
take
least
smart. It will take a lot more than that because town and country have to get the act together.
the
Really.
groundwork alone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Town and country has to actually get their act together. I do not know if their planning is outdated or whoever is there don't understand the current building codes, or even we don't have a national building codes. There are building practices.
Well, we
There are
would have to
certain things there.
revolutionize the town and country too, because we need people there who
Well,
be flowing with us. We can't have people
Yeah,
obstructing us.
yeah,
it takes a good 2 to 3 years to get a CEC. You know, Dr. Stephen, you'll know that the environmental clearance.
yeah. The
But
ECC, yes, of course, yes,
yeah, you that
yeah,
alone. So that
yeah.
puts you
Uh,
basically in the year 5 of the election of the term.
yeah,
So what I'm thinking and what I suggested that we do the simpler projects first, learn from
yes,
our mistakes as we go along.
yeah,
Be pretty good in highways and construction. So this part of it, we can get that going. The flooding, the drainage, and so on, that can continue. But some of these big projects, you have to get the IMA, town and country,
yeah.
environmental clearance, and all
Yeah.
these other
You see,
statutory.
Suman, a lot of what Ken brings to the table, and some of his friends can also. You have to look at it. If you're going to be putting up the buildings that you see at San Fernando, right? The new buildings, yeah, that is proposed. You have flushing toilets, right? That will be used now. Look at what happened with Hyatt when they built the Hyatt. In terms of the Hyatt toilets, they had a big problem where they had to almost go and change over all those toilets because the water was backing up in the system because your sewer system just didn't have the capacity.
That's
You build the buildings, but after those 3 buildings, you had a lot of problem with sewer and sewage, right? Then you had flooding because the problem is that when people are using these buildings, water has to go somewhere, sewage has to go somewhere. Every time you flush a toilet in the Hyatt and it's fully occupied, people are in the other buildings. These things cause, issues. So when you're planning the buildings, you have to also look at your current system of drainage, as was Gary saying, Ken knows, right? And you have to plan what you're going to be doing when you put the actual people in these buildings, right? The washrooms, the water use, the surface water runoff, all of that. And all of that has to be calculated in the context of where you're going to be putting them. So although they're not going to be saying that, they say, okay, I'm going to put up these buildings. That's fine. Yeah, we're going to put it up, and we understand what you're saying. But what we also saying in this forum is that concomitant to that, the ministries have now a responsibility to ensure, right, that what is going to be planned for these buildings in the next 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years cannot impact the environment, cannot impact the sewer system, cannot impact the drainage, cannot impact the access to the city, the egress to the city, right? The electricity use, everything else, the demand, etc., etc. The demand for goods and demand for competencies, cemeteries, the demand for cemeteries and ice and all of those things have to be part of the planning. You wouldn't see it in the building planning, but you're going to have that in your local government, in your Ministry of Works, in your Ministry of Health, to cater for this development. Yes? So that is a big thing. You're not hearing about that investment because nobody invested in that. Nobody's not going to be investing in the healthcare systems of the RHA. But the RHA is going to be running that, isn't it? Yes? So if the RHA is going to be running that now, and the RHA has a budget right now that they can't even manage, right, in terms of managing the current basic run-of-the-mill healthcare, you have to plan now for what you're going to be doing in the next 5, 10, and 15 years when you bring these buildings down, because you have more people coming in, more possibility of heart attacks, more possibility of accidents, etc., etc. You know what I mean? You understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah.
Yes.
Bigger bridges, all those bridges into San Fernando. You have a 2 bridge thing by the cross crossing. You think that 2 little cross crossing bridge now is going to cut it? You know what I mean? Are you
Road
going to tell the
capacity.
Are you going to tell the mall next door and the people building that you want to buy their property now and widen that whole carriageway to meet up back to the north-south highway? Are you putting 3 lanes like you did in Chaguanas now to come into San Fernando? Right now, you have a problem coming into San Fernando in the morning with big backup. Right now. So these are the things that will have to be planned as well. But then again, you're not going to be telling the investors that, right? You're going to be telling the Ministry of Works that. Ministry of Works now have to sit down now and start planning, because in order for that investment to occur, right? Some of these things, if you have an investor who already do due diligence, they wouldn't invest because they will want to see that you have the plans to do that.
Yeah, this is why we have to prepare the country in terms of the upgrades to the grid system, the infrastructure, the road capacity. We have to look at the new design capacity, or
Yeah, the
the
whole the
the, the
whole
50-year
north
planning.
south, the whole north south current operating system and the planning for the next 5, 10, and 15 years to cater for those buildings and those infrastructure and those developments. All of that now will have to be another set of proposal that goes into the respective ministries, and it has to start from now.
Mhm.
Definitely.
Mhm.
And that's where we will have to do the traffic studies,
Yeah,
right? And cater for the new design capacity,
yeah,
right? For example, if we have 3,000 vehicles during peak hour in the
yeah,
morning in the
yeah,
area about the highway,
yeah.
all of a sudden now that was a double,
Well, now
right?
it will double because you haven't looked at the fancy buildings you're putting down there now.
So you're going to take
Yeah,
a bad case and make it into a worst case. But yeah,
yeah,
Doc, all of this has to be done, and you made a very good point. We have to also get this work in, and the ambitious projects are there,
yeah.
but these works has to complement that or make the entire project work,
Right.
right?
So
Because,
the
for
Absolutely.
thing is,
example, go ahead.
the thing is that you have to now audit what you currently have. If somebody say, okay, right now It takes the average person trying to enter San Fernando at 7:30 in the morning 3 hours, right? If that is one of your current indicators, then if you estimate what's going to happen in the next 5-10 years, it's going to take him more if you don't
Yeah.
do something now to sort it out.
So
Because
so
it can't be status quo. It just
correct.
can't.
Correct.
So you
So the
have to audit.
question.
Yeah, you have to get some
So
young
the
people.
question we
A
will
lot of
ask
young
the
people.
transportation experts in
Yeah.
the Ministry of Works and Transport
Yeah.
is, what is the level of service
Yeah.
for some of the roads, the major highways? Is it
Yeah.
a E or F? And then what it is you intend to move it up to,
Yeah.
right?
You
A
need
being the
to start.
best.
You need to hire a lot of these young people who voted for us, who do have jobs now, right? Let them start getting a little pencil, a little iPad now, and start measuring traffic, sending up drones, looking at things, measuring your when the rain falls, where your water collecting.
Data
Use
collection.
radioactive beads and find out where your water is. So you're going to have to do these.
But
these studies
with
now.
the technology now we have,
Yeah.
we could use a drone to calculate the measurement, right? Isn't that so?
Yes,
Mhm.
yes,
Mhm.
Right. So
Correct.
you
yeah,
just point and you get the
yeah,
calculations of the distance.
good. And you have to begin to now plan contingencies, because, as I said, if you look at Brian Nara, right, and you're having a problem, let's a little brainstorming here. Every time there's a cricket match at Brian Nara, right, you have traffic congestion like crazy, right? It means, therefore, that you have to widen the carriageway. That's one. You have to probably build a ramp, right, to take people who are going to the cricket across without having to go to the interchange, right, to the Brian Nara. You might have to buy areas around Brian Nara to extend the amount of parking, right? And therefore, if you're talking about an air train in the middle of the highway going straight up from north south, right, like how you have it in New York, right, where you have a big pillar and on top of it have a train going from the airport to the JFK, right? Remember that one when you go to New
Yeah.
York City?
Yeah,
Or
Yeah.
the
that's
Metro Rail.
up on the Van Wyck there. That's up on the
Right.
Yeah.
Van
So
Or
Wyck.
the Metro Rail in Miami.
if you put that same thing in the middle of the highway going straight up from north to south with the air thing on top, you have to develop. Maybe the Brian Lara car park could be used as your car park, to park for people all in the south to come and park and take that train to go up north. You see, so you kill two birds with one stone. Whenever you have a massive traffic buildup, right, you move the cars from the highway and you park them there. So you wouldn't have children in a car for 4 hours without water, right? You wouldn't have people unable to leave the highway in these massive pileups where you have people with diabetes, don't have medicine, and they're sitting down in the car there for 3 hours in a traffic jam, and you can't decant the highway. So these are some of the things that you really have to do. So when you put these little along the highway, you have these big parking areas, as what we call the areas where you can move people. You could use them for car park and rides, where people could go and park their vehicles and get onto into the transit. Like Ecuador had a traffic problem. And what they did, they created a bus lane where on the major highways, instead of the 2-lane or 3-lane highway, they put a bus lane just like the bus route, right? And they allowed people to they build the car park, the parking lots where people could go and park, and then take these buses and go straight up the city, and it cut down a lot of the need to use your vehicles. So a lot of other things that they'll have to do, and they really have to. I mean, listen. If we allow this to just go this way and steady, and we're going to have problems. The causeway is a solution, but there are
Serious
other
problem.
solutions that will also have to get you to that causeway, right? In other words, and if you're going to be having all of these infrastructure, traffic management on our major transit hubs you're going to have to revise, and the whole thing, they're going to have to be revised. It's going to have to be revised.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And not only that, Doctor, there's a lot of all the utilities to
Yes.
start with,
Well, of
because
course, the
you're
demand
building
will be more. The
not
demand for voltage and for current in San Fernando, with all these buildings going to be more. The demand for sewage system, the demand for surface water run, right, out of the system. All of that has to be taken into consideration, right? Your sporting facilities would have to be increased because you have more people coming in there who will be looking to jog in the evening after they do their business. You see, all of these things have to be taken into the context of where you're going.
And that requires proper planning.
Correct.
And extra electricity, powering power supply. We're gonna need
Yes,
power supply and wind energy, solar energy, all these things we should experiment with.
yeah, of course, of course. But you know,
Definitely.
what I think what we have agreed is that we agree. We like what is happening. We want to see Trinidad and Tobago go that way. So that's fine. But what we also saying is that we have to now make sure that we sustain ourselves as a party, right? That as a priority, that's a very high priority that must be running alongside all of these projects because buildings don't win votes, right? Other things wins votes, and we have to find out what those things are because those things are there, but we just refusing to bring them up, right? The next thing that we have to do is that we have to have a advisory team, right, that is accepted by the current government to at least be the devil's advocate, right? Not that we are fighting anything down. It's just to say that there are other things that would need to be taken into consideration, and the people has to hear about these things. If the people are only hearing about these visionary things, they're gonna get vexed because they're gonna say we don't even have money right now to pay salaries. There are a lot of people who are not even getting money for CPEP. There are a lot of grass growing all over the country. You know, if you look at the parks and the highways, the bush, you can't even see a sign. I came in from Toronto on Monday, and when I was going up on the Carney Road there, a lot of the signs now the grass is growing so high you can't even see the signs. You know what I mean? So I mean, it's not. I know the system is happening with people and CPEP and whatever, but there are certain priorities that has to. People are going to lose their lives. People, a fella cutting in because he don't even know where he's going. So we have to kind of be careful, right? That certain things need work, right? The highways, certain parts of the highways, the lighting by the ramps, right? When you have to come off exit and come onto a highway, those areas have to be well lit, right?
Correct.
So some of those things have to be done in our country because the PNM didn't do it. And we have to now check that all those major ramps coming in and out of the big highways have to have proper lighting, right? And if it has to be solar lighting, so be it. But we have to have them
Mhm.
because people are losing their lives. You know, people are dying.
Definitely correct. That
But
is absolutely correct.
speaking of about people are dying, I'm wondering uh, where is the police highway patrol?
Hmm.
Where is the police? Because I mean, everybody is driving like they're on a racetrack, and you could tell by the speed and by the level of these accidents. It's speed.
Yeah, it is.
Oh,
And a
the
young
out
boy,
of
Yeah.
a young
control.
couple. Yeah, I mean, I was driving with my granddaughter to a Tuesday morning to see some patients up in Valsena, and I drove in Canada for 2 weeks when I was there. Right, I even left Sunday in snow. The road was covered with snow. But the I drive on the 401 almost every couple of days because I have relatives in Ajax and I live downtown. And when you go on the 401 and you drive and you're driving at this highway coming and all that, I am scared to carry my granddaughter again on that highway. I mean, Gary, people were just coming in and out, in and out, in and out. And if I saw one highway patrol car on the side of the road, it was plenty, right? And that was 8 o'clock in the morning. I left at 7:45 to reach for my 9 o'clock appointments, right? And I can tell you, I didn't see any highway patrol cars on the highway. And fellas were just cutting in, cutting out, cutting in, cutting out. People were using the shoulders. I mean, it
Sure.
was
Yeah.
terrible. You
Oh,
don't see those things
yeah.
in well-developed countries. You don't see them.
Yeah.
You know.
Um.
Well, Dr. Rama, we also have to remember we have more technology involved in
Well,
the U.S.
yes,
and
yes,
a lot of the times the highway patrol is hidden that they can shoot out at you, via a patrol vehicle or a helicopter.
right.
Um, and
And it's
but
sad.
we have a lawless culture. We have a people,
Correct.
And
Correct.
and you see,
that
yeah,
that
and when we talk about getting our national security system in place and reducing crime, we will find in all the literature, in all the evidence-based literature, it doesn't take a crime expert to go and read it. Is that once you begin to control these petty crimes, once you begin to control your traffic crimes, as a matter of fact, a lot of homicides are solved by traffic holdups and the way you manage your traffic systems. You know what I mean? In other words, then once you keep your traffic and your petty crimes on your petty complaints sorted out, you will see that you can have a better crime fighting capability. So your simple highway, your major roads, your minor roads, controlling and enforcing the law, right? As I said, if you look at the evidence, when you do those things, you pick up more bad guys. Trust me, it is the evidence that we find when we're looking at getting a country back in order, right? You charge these guys, as you say, Gary. We have the technology. It's not we have something here called lotto. Anybody knows the lotto system we have there? Lottery, national lottery. If you buy a lottery ticket in Cedros, Icacas, Toco, Guayari, right, 2 seconds or 3 seconds before the close of the draw, right, you have a chance of winning because you're in the system. Isn't that amazing technology? And it's in the lotto system, in a lotto booth, in remote areas. So we have the capability of connecting all police officers with iPads. So if I catch a car down speeding in Cedros, I could type in that and I could find out who the hell it is. Eh? So we have things. It's just that for somehow the last government didn't seem to want to enforce it, and I don't even want to go into why. But I think that we are a new government, only a few months now. So I think once we begin to identify some of the things that we need to sort out, maybe somebody will listen to us, and maybe we could see that these things are being done concomitantly, and telling the public that so we are going to close Bayanara to FETs, but we are in the process of providing an alternate environment for these FETs. You know what I mean? In the same way. Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, so Doc, let me chime in on that, right? And Gary, we've spoken about this also. We have a lot of open land, open space in Couva North and Chaguanas West there, right? Down to the west, almost to the coastline. A lot of underutilized, open spaces. Why don't we propose a major entertainment center down there where we can expand on the parking and we can upgrade the roads to move in and out, right? And it's away from a lot of the residential development. So it's something to look at also,
Yeah, it
Gary.
is. It is going to be a real thing, because carnival is an important thing, and not just carnival. You have other fêtes during the year. So I,
Definitely.
I I fully agree, and I think that the government, whilst they're talking about this, they could also engage private sector. Right? There might be private sector partnerships that they could probably maybe ask persons to invest. You know what I mean? Because of course they all have all the gain. You charge a man $20-$30 to park, you know what I mean? And you have about 4,000 people coming to a fete, you know what I mean? Right away, you could get back some of your money, right? So if you have
The-
investors who are willing
Correct.
to grade up an area, right, put the necessary infrastructure, build the washrooms, get the approval for lighting, make sure you have enough parking to cater for the venue, you know what I mean? These
So,
things,
so,
and of
so
course,
Dr.
people,
Amok, that
yeah,
that could be in the form of a consortium and a
yeah,
proposal,
yeah,
right? Where the government gives us give provides the land
yeah,
with a 99-year lease,
yeah,
and that will solve the problem.
yeah.
I think we could get that done. We could get that built in less than a year.
Man, I tell you, as I said, by 2027 Carnival, you could have these places, right? So my suggestion is maybe the Honorable Prime Minister might just have to review it in a sense and say, okay, look, we're going to meet with the stakeholders around the Bayanara area and other parts of the country. We have periods like Carnival or whatever. When we have these events, we would definitely ban the ones that goes on in the morning. There's these morning ones that they want to have the breakfast ones where they or 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, they have big loud music. Yeah, well, we do on that. You end like in America, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, you have your fete from 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the evening, and it ends at 11. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So in other words, then yes, we could accept that. But at least you're saying you could use the event, right? And the other people around will have to understand it. You're not getting a fete 7 days a week. It's only going to be about 2 or 3 fetes on the weekend, and it's carnival. So if you want me to come and maybe we could fix your house and retrofit your house a little bit So at least in the areas where the sound will come in, we could make it a little a little more soundproof, right? I mean, we could even get a company to give you these noise reduction earphones. You know what I mean? You know, I mean, what I'm just saying, I'm thinking loud. These are some of the things we could give them as gifts and say, okay, look, we in 2027 we'll make the arrangements, but in 2026, you know, this is the kind of way that we have to go forward.
Definitely. But I think there's a lot of potential also, in addition to what you just mentioned, Dr. Amrup, to build out
Yeah,
something in Central,
yeah,
right? And it will complement what we've been proposing with the causeway, with the
yeah.
expanded road network,
Correct,
right?
correct.
Park
Now
and
in Port
ride.
of,
Park
yeah,
and
Yeah,
ride.
now
yeah,
Right?
also, Gary, we spoke about a marina in Central. We could put a structure to these party boats,
yeah,
right? I see
Well,
them
so what
sailing on
I'm
the,
saying is, when like I was telling you, right? If you come up the Guayma, right, that area, you should have to go into a parking area with the boat dock and you offload, right? Like how we just have it over here in the States, right? So that's
yeah,
the concept I'm talking about. Go ahead.
yeah.
yeah,
And one of the things, Ken, is that we build it as a multi-purpose function, because if you elevate it properly and drain it, it means that for any flooding within that area where it's really bad, you could evacuate people and carry them there, right? Water tanks,
correct.
water supplies. If you pass in some of these communities, when you drive, let us say you drive into the areas in Europe, right, into the areas in Ukraine, and you go down into in North America, Canada, you see these big ass tanks, you know, standing up in these things, and they say this is the city of St. John's Village, right?
Yep.
Population 5,000, and they have a massive water tank on top there. You know what I mean? So it means
Yeah,
that if
yeah,
there's any problems with the water supply, you have that, and that tank, where that tank is, there are elevations where people could go in case of a disaster with flooding or whatever. They could actually go and stay there in shelters provided by the state. So which
yep,
means if you have flooding where people have to leave their houses, you already have that area which is used for fetes on a weekend for carnival. But that is also an area where you could
You have an
Gary,
evacuation zone.
you could decant vehicles. You could have an evacuation zone where people could go and tide out. What's happening in Jamaica? It could happen to Trinidad. If you have a
correct.
massive earthquake with the current building stock we have, 60% of the persons who do not build regulated buildings in Trinidad will lose their buildings, and buildings kill people. So if you have to find shelters for these people, like what is happening in Jamaica now, these are the areas where you can put them. You build these
That's
massive
right.
tents. The U.S. Army could come down with these massive hospital tents and put them there. You could have your field hospitals. You could have tents for people, you know, like what they do in Syria. I'm sorry, in these shelters, like for all the Syrians and all of these people coming. I mean, it's massive. These tents could go up in two. The military put in these things overnight. You know what I mean? They're shipping them down and they're putting them down overnight. Overnight, you have a big, you know, hospital, a tent hospital. So these are the things that I agree with, and it could serve multiple. And I think it could be done within the next 2 to 3 years.
And then the accessibility also, the infrastructure to access it
Right.
will be in place.
Yes, because you're talking
Yeah,
about a
so
causeway with your ramps coming off. You know what I mean?
and then we expand the local roads networks,
Yes.
right? All the secondary roads, some of the agricultural roads, we upgrade them, right? The single lanes each way, we do to a dual lane each way.
Yeah.
You know, but definitely, I think a multi-purpose center that we just spoke about there, in somewhere around Couva North, Shogunas West, around the Petersfield area, there's a lot of open land there, open space there. The government can provide 50 acres, 60 acres, 100 acres. So we have enough room to expand, ample parking, etc. And we could propose a multi-purpose center there
All right,
where
so
you could have
listen, we have
pets.
Gene Pier Complex, right? We had the Hazley Crawford Stadium, right?
Hey, Gary, go ahead.
So why we don't have an enclosed stadium? Why we
Yeah.
don't have an enclosed stadium? Can we convert one of those that are already? Are we using both the Hazley Crawford and the Gene Pier Complex at this point? What are we using it to do? Can we take one and enclose it?
Even the Marabella Stadium is not used.
Right.
I mean, right now in the
So in
heart
the
of
south,
Marbella, if you fix that building and you retrofit it, and you make it soundproof, you make it like a big hall, which could run shows for five. You see, they built Napa, they built Sapa, right,
what?
for your
Yeah.
cultural
Well, I was getting
entertainment.
there. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
But go ahead.
right. But what they didn't build was where we're gonna have our fete, our presentation, college fete, and we have carnival in this country. We had carnival, yeah, since we abolished slavery, and people come out on the street for Mardi Gras. Look at how long we had carnival. It was going to evolve to what it is, and it's going to evolve even more with technology, right? So, in other words, then Napa and Sapa cannot take your big fets because you built it close to residential areas. So the use is not going to be that. But if you have the, as you say, Gary, very common sense, you make these buildings. I mean, you go into in Canada, you go to Scotia Stadium, you go to the baseball. Recently, you had the Blue Jays play a match there, which they lost. You know what I mean? Toronto Blue Jays. You go down to these stadiums and you see inside them, right? And the way that you have everything inside, you have a massive fed there. Nobody outside know what's going on. They don't. The way it's built. Yeah.
In case of emergency, you use it as a
Of
shelter.
course, yes.
All right.
And
Yeah, yeah.
so
Okay.
you use the infrastructure that you have. This is what Ken said. I mean, this is what Sumant was talking about. You retrofit what you have. But what Sumant and I have to agree, the engineer will definitely think about buildings, infrastructure, and whatever, right? But the systems, processes, protocols, full-time equivalents, right? The use of metrics, measurement of performance, setting your goals, right? Putting in your resiliency tools and everything, right? Embedding IT into almost all your programming, right? Catering for the next 5 to 10, 15 years, not just structurally, but mentally, spiritually as well. All of those things it's a whole of government approach to development going forward, right?
On an economic point, right? The
Yeah.
amount of effort that is put in for Carnival, I don't see those involved really profit. Uh, the artists, the Silpa man. So the Carnival has to get to a point where it's a paid event.
Yeah.
You understand? And how is Wallerfield right now in its ability to accommodate something like a large outdoor fete right now? Isn't that
Well,
Well,
away from is that away from residents that racetrack area down there? Do we have room? Do we have room to expand down there where
I
you could
haven't I
accommodate?
haven't been in that area. The answer to that is it is where the geographical location is. It does give you that degree of away from people, right? But
y-
as I said, we haven't done any sort of studies on that. What we
Right.
did at
I'm
ODPM,
just looking at this
yeah.
as one
No,
option, not the only option, but
what we
one
did at
option.
ODPM is that we identified areas, right, where we wanted to have these what we call zones, right, or multi-purpose zones, right? Ken is correct. We identified the northeast part of the country, the northwest, the central west. Good. The only
Yeah,
area we
correct.
didn't find a place was in the Mayaro, Manzanilla,
Southeast.
Guayari area. So between Maruga and Guayguari, because in the case of a tsunami, right, on that east coast from Mayarogo right on to Guaya, people are going to be affected and probably die because all the communities are in the impact zone. There's no place for them to even run, except a couple of secondary schools on the hill there. And if they do have a tsunami in the Atlantic or anything happening with Kikem Jenny, probably going to lose the whole East Coast, right? So when we were looking at where to send them and how to evacuate these people into the further areas inside that are elevated, we couldn't find much. We suggested a area where they had an old helipad where they have a cemetery somewhere in the Mafikin area, and I think Devant Maharaj was the Minister of Agriculture. I think it was Land and thing and Agriculture at the time, and we were in negotiations at the time to get that area, right, which was about 100 acres of land, which we said we'll put up these massive tents so that when we also forecasted the movement of Venezuelans into Trinidad, And what we had suggested is, instead of the Venezuelans come and mix into the general population, that we had suggested that when we clean that area up and we make the tents and we get the massive warehouses which could be built in a week, you know what I mean? That these people will come there. It wouldn't be a a camp, but it was going to be an area that was really would hold people, so that when we hold them, we could process them and then we could find their competencies and get them to go into the community, provide education in Spanish for them, etc., before getting them into the community, or even having negotiations with Panama and these other areas to take them, because Trinidad is a small country. All of those, if I go back and get these documents, I could send it to you. Right, the planning was already there in my time. Right, we had policies of crowd management. We had a workshop in the Hilton where we brought all the stakeholders on all this thing about crowd management, and we talked about the same thing we talked about. Right, at that time Brian Nara wasn't there, but we had other areas that people were having fets in the Oval and all this sort of thing. So these things have been done before. It's a sad thing.
No, take a look at your screen, guys.
Yeah, that's what Waller Field.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Look at the massive space around there where you could have ample parking and moving of traffic. We should do something with that out there.
Yeah,
Yeah, Gary, but
I think we
there
have.
is something already planned there, the whole national security framework with courts and various magistrate courts and
Yeah,
housing development and security
yeah,
systems and so on. One of the
yeah. I saw
ones you
that.
just showed.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have to be a little careful. We don't want to infringe. And next thing you know, is a town and country approval development 1 mile from the area there.
No, but I'm
As
I'm
is,
saying we have space here. If it's even for a short-term
Yeah.
remedy to accommodate these events
Yeah.
away from.
Yeah. No, I agree. As I said, I mean, these proposals for the nationals, they wouldn't come in yet. So if you're willing to find a temporary solution for the meantime until we could find a more permanent solution, it's fine. I mean,
Mhm,
I
mhm.
agree. I think that government is not going to spend money to prepare these areas. I think, as Ken was saying, I think a private sector partnership would probably work.
Definitely.
And there are going to be benefits by returns like parking and infrastructure. Once the public utilities is willing to assist, and you can have electricity and lighting approvals without too much hassle. You know what I mean? Temporary town and country approvals, etc., etc. EMA, so all of these things will have to come in to support the concept, and we don't want to put in something too permanent, so they'll have to remove it. But at the same time, all you really need is a flat ground, with good lighting, washroom facilities, drainage,
But
etc.,
those things
etc.
can be put up quickly,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
in fact, you could use some containers and convert it quickly.
yeah. Because
And
stages are built, and a lot of these big fets are in the open, half of them.
right,
And I
yeah.
mean, as I said, I think that these are the things that could be done quickly. I agree. I
And
agree.
buses, simple thing as buses could go out to this place with ease, and you have ample parking. And I'm just saying something like this, and
Transportation,
yeah.
And there are
transportation
some
also.
infrastructure there already for the racetrack. So in other words, and you might have buildings and things that you could retrofit and use, um, in the meantime. So yeah, these are
So
things that could be suggested.
that's it. This is one location. I think it can be a good place for any kind of event.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then if they, as you said, if they retrofit the Hazy Crawford, the Manny Ram John, some of these other areas to
Yeah,
make it to
into
make it a
into
have.
into indoor
Yeah,
indoor
yeah,
stadiums.
because you could have a fete with 2,000 3,000 people, 4,000 people, comfortably in an auditorium that is large and well sung, engineered. So it's a suggestion, because we talk about it in the context of development. If you are going to be looking at policies with respect to noise pollution, then it clearly you would have to cater for the feds. It's a natural thing. So therefore, if you're going to have to do that, all of what we talked about makes sense.
Yeah. And that would serve as the alternate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that will obviously come up in the discussion over the next few weeks. Trust me.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. And we have to get away from these things. They only say, okay, we're not going to implement this, but I offer a solution, man. Albeit a temporary one, and say, okay, from next year, this, we're going to a more permanent solution. But in the meantime, give it the time frame now.
Yeah, I agree. I think so.
Yes, the tickets sold, you got all their clearances
Yeah,
from the
we have tickets already printed
police, everything.
Then what I'm saying, you need to provide some alternate and
Correct.
and come up with it quickly.
Yeah.
Yes, quickly.
Yeah.
Don't leave people hanging. There's a lot of time and effort that goes into planning these fets and these parties, these big parties.
And then the whole policy with regard to this has to be revisited. Let me give you an example. When you have a fet and you're going to apply to the magistrate, right, for the license to have the alcohol license and to have the outdoor fet, right, you have to get a certain amount of police and fire, right? And if you don't go with the proposal, right, they calculate the number of fire officers and police officers who will be required for that fet, right? And they will charge. The police charge as much as $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 with police and fire. That is a charge by police and fire. People don't tell you that, but that is a fact, right? So the fet promoters have to pay police and fire sometimes as much as $100,000 together, right, for these large fets, for the police and fire to be in the venue. Now, during some of these times, right, you have 4 fets going on, or 5 fets, right, in a city around, like Port of Spain or something like that. Sometimes 3 fets maximum, right? And when you check the number of police officers and fire officers in these fets, good, you will find that if you really have a fire in a hospital or a school or something really bad in a community, people dead, because the ability for the response is a lot of the fire officers in these fets. That's one. The second thing is there is no command and control. This is how Brian Lara had all this problem recently in the last 2 matches. When the police and fires are in there, the goal commanders, bronze commanders, civil, they cannot connect with each other by radios because the people in the stadium do not have radios, right? They're talking on their phone and all kind of craziness. So when the stampede occurs or the stage collapses or a man take a firearm and start shooting and people start running, the police officers and fire officers get killed too, right? Because they cannot control the crowd. So the suggestion that we had made when we talked about crowd control is the international one. You get in all these big, these political rallies and all of these things. Private security deal with, and of course, well, the political party security, right? They deal with the security within the venue. There's a command center in the venue, and in the command center there's a police representative, right? A fire representative, an ambulance representative, a city representative. All of them is in that venue. You have 20 police officers. You have one, right? And that one hooks up back. He's the bronze, right? He hooks up back to the silver commander. The gold commander could be in his house in Diego Martin, but the silver commander is the one in the police station that is governing that area, the city police station, right? That's the man who's sitting down there in a command center. So if you really need now in any one of these 3 or 4 events, you have a bronze in each one of them, and your police officers on the outside. They're patrolling, they're moving, they're checking people coming out of the place drunk, they're checking traffic, right? They're checking bandits trying to break into Wadi Lima and all of these things. And in the venue, security is high because you have private security, which people are going to pay for. You understand what I'm saying? So really and truly, that is the concept that we ask that they should adopt going forward with these feds. Don't take the police and fire officers and put them in each, because really and truly, all the fellas and them do is they have a little battle on the side of their hand. They walk around the fed, they get a little free food, they take a little thing now and then, and they bring in the last time in Brian Lara, the fire the fire ambulance was bringing in people, their relatives and friends within the stadium for the cricket in the fire ambulance. I was walking, I saw that on my own eyes. You know what I mean? So they have absolutely no purpose inside it. It is better to have the fire brigade and the fire truck come in case you have a problem. You understand what I'm saying? So they come in on the command of the branch commander fire upstairs. So if you need to have fire now, instead of in the other two events where there's nothing, you bring all your fire officers and you bring them into the venue where you have the problem. Rather than have all the fire officers in the three venues sitting down with their battle, and when something happens outside, crap will smoke your pipe. So this is what really happens in events here. And somebody have to sit down and tell the boss that, right? And explain that, and of course, maybe even the Minister of National Security, well, the Homeland Security, and try to tell them, look, if you want to go forward and change noise, then you have to change the whole concept of how feds are organized in this country, right? I don't mind police officers and fire officers getting $80,000 to do three feds. That's $240,000 going for three feds in an area. And I am not lying, and I'm telling you exactly what happened. If you talk to any pet manager, they'll know. I have a dancehall license in my care, and why they want to come to my place is because they don't want to go and pay the fire and police in Brianna. That's how they used to come here. But when we had the restrictions, now they have to go there. Because I used to run pets in my place. So we have to be careful, and I think that is something that we need to probably look at going forward in terms of the regulation.
Doc, your mic is going on pretty low.
Right. You hear me now better?
Yeah.
Yeah, much better.
Much better.
Yeah. So that is something that clearly we have to look at in terms of going forward. To be honest with you, it's something that is I always worry that if something really does happen, like an earthquake or maybe the hospital has a fire or something, that these officers would have to leave these big feds and go down. You know what I mean? And how are they going to do that?
Well, let's see how things works out this time around. I mean, we're gonna make all the recommendation as we can. Is
Yeah.
let's see how things are absorbed from what we're saying. I'm seeing some progress here with our oil refinery, with Dr. Mulunal is saying that the report come in by month
Yeah,
end.
1 month then.
Right. And so we should be on our way with getting things up and running. Um, you know, so let's hope for the best on that part.
One of the
I
things,
s-
Gary, coming out of this, right, is the refinery, right? They have a lot of infrastructure in Petrotrin, right? If you drive through there, that are underutilized or not utilized, and
that
one
we
of the
could use right now too, right?
right, and
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if you all remember St. Madeleine Sugar Factory,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
right? So
No, that's off of the St. Madeleine Road, right? When
correct,
Pleasant,
correct, correct.
right. So I
Yeah.
used to see that when I was working on Pleasantville number 2.
Yes, right. My father used to work there as a police officer, so I used to go and drop food for him and thing. And inside there, when that factory was working, it was a sight to see. And the
Yeah.
smell, I mean, it was. I grew up with that. I could still smell it. And the pond over the road, I
Over
mean,
the road,
it's
correct.
and the golf course. It's one of the
Yep.
most beautiful areas in the south of Trinidad. So Gary, I went to Martinique on a Rotary conference, right? And they had this tour to a sugar factory, right? A sugar factory that was, you know, antique. And when we went, I actually saw St. Madeleine factory. You go in and you have these little sugar making thing, and they had a tour through the old factory where the slaves and they were bringing the cane and the indentured laborers. And Martinique had a quite big indentured population,
Mm-hmm.
and
Correct.
and when you look at they had these little tours and the rides for the children and the little fresh sugar cane juice, listen to me. That place I drove through there, we drive through there to go on the beach in Mayaro every weekend, and the place is dilapidated, it's run down, right? Petrotrin. One of the big problems we have in Trinidad, I know, Samantha, you worked on the health manifesto, but we have a big problem with retirement homes, right? A lot of
Yeah.
persons who could
Mm-hmm.
afford to go in a home when they reach a certain age, right? We don't have those homes in Trinidad. Petrotrin have a nice golf course with lovely scenery. A lot of the buildings have been underutilized and they're not even occupied. Same thing with St. Madeleine, right? So one of the things is that when we look at going forward in terms of Trinidad and Tobago, I think that the option for persons to have a mortgage, right, for some of these buildings that could be passed on to their children, and these could be retirement homes. I mean, North America, you know what a retirement home is, right?
Yeah, the
And you have,
ACLF, they call them ACLF, adult care
right,
living facilities.
right. So you have these multi-story buildings where you have people within. It's almost like hotels, and your spouse dies, you will be there with other people. You have the engagement, you have the bingo, you have the tours. So I'm saying we do not
Mhm.
have that in Trinidad. We do not have that in Trinidad, and we have quite a lot of the middle upper income families, right now having a problem with the elderly in terms of what's going to happen with them. Where are they going to go? They cannot stay in my house. I'm a young married couple. I have my children, but my father and mother are living longer, and they're getting more sick. And I can't see about my family and see about them. I just don't have the money. Current is going up. Rent is costing me more. Blah 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 blah. So some of these areas, in terms of the context of development of our elder population, right, where you have these communities that have people like me after 75, where I don't want to stay at home, I mean, I want to go in maybe with friends of mine at that age or whatever it is, and then just like these communities, and when you die, you have your healthcare system, you have everything right there. So it's something that is to think about, because in the terms of the development, it's something that, I mean, we're not going to talk about. But as you talked about Petrotrin, I remember St. Madeleine, and I remember that there are a lot of things that could be done with that factory. If we suggest that some of, remember, this is for what it is, that'll be culture and development. Would that be culture and development if you were to take these factories and make them, museums,
But what
right?
I said, but Doc, that could also be one of the location temporary used right now for
Yeah,
that Brian Lara issue, because that's a
yeah,
very large place there.
yeah. It is actually, and it's a beautiful place to have a museum and a,
Picturesque,
and a
eh?
golf
Very
course.
picturesque.
Yeah. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I think that this is the other part of the Trinidad and Tobago culture that needs to be developed. Because I don't know if you all ever had the opportunity to go to Japan, and I see recently on the news that one of the temples in China, had a fire. The thing is that we have a lot of heritage, right, sites that we need to build back, because these heritage sites are a very key element in resiliency of our communities, right? And it's a very important thing going forward for the people. Well, I say people's partners, for the UNC to look at, because it's value added, and it
Mm-hmm.
can make the difference in terms of voting at the end of the next 5 years. These are the things, the subtle things that gives you the extra added value, right, when it comes to a people-centered approach to development, you know.
Doc, you made a good point there, Look right in central, the heart of Chaguanas. We have
Yeah.
that lion house
Yes.
where Naipaul and his family and stuff used to
Correct.
be,
Correct.
there.
Correct.
That place
Yeah.
is like abandoned.
That's
They
correct.
have
I mean,
galvanized sheet
my
around it, and they
yes,
have it's overgrown,
yes.
right? And that's a
Last night
historic site.
last night I had the opportunity at the Rotary meeting. Narendra Rupnarayan. He was the MP for. He is the MP for Naparima. So, he came to the Rotary meeting and he sat next to me and we were talking. He's the parliamentary secretary in community development. I think that's with
Mm-hmm.
Benjamin,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
Michelle, yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
So I was telling him about these things, and I was telling him that we could probably because I think that falls under Naprima, and that we could work with him, all right, and see if we could try to get some of our heritage sites up, Ken,
Yeah,
and maybe as part of that Lions will fall under who? That'll be Colin, or it will
that's
be
Colin.
Colin West. That'll be West, right?
Yeah, Chaguanas West.
John's West, right? yeah, maybe we could also try to do this, because this you see, in a weekend, and a long weekend, or even a weekend, people flock to the malls, right? They go to the beaches and they don't even have toilets to pee or garbage bins to throw the garbage. Right? We talked about the lady who died in a river recently when we were talking. So we have to look at these things, and then we have to look at these heritage sites where people could take children to go and see our old sugar factory where my father, my grandfather worked. You know what I mean?
That's
And it's going to die in our history if we don't do that.
that's part of our
So
history.
yeah, it's
Mhm.
something that we need to do that. And if we could do that, where people can have a weekend where they could take that drive and go and see the Lions House, or the St. Madeleine factory, or the Bridgeton Castle factory, or you know what I mean.
Yeah,
These are
yeah,
things that the population need. They need right now.
yeah,
It
yeah.
reduces stress. It improves your heritage. You know what I mean. It gives you a cultural heritage, a different insight. And I think these are the subtle things that the government needs to work on alongside the big developments, right? That you would want to bring all of these things, and then the guys say, okay, hey boy, let me go up my Arafat Drive. And when they reach on the local, they have no place to pee. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So these are the things that has to come in with what we're developing. And these are the subtle things that need to be sorted out, right?
Well,
Banks.
you, mhm.
Banks right now have no toilets for people. And you have people waiting in line for hours to go and see a teller, and they have no place to pee, you know. And you have old people, as you know, once you reach a certain age, your bladder have a problem,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, I mean, things like that. These are the things that we have to kind of get sorted out. The PM
This
is
is the
right.
kind of system that PNM forced the country into, you know. It's a
Yeah,
who dead kind of
yeah,
mentality.
yeah. For
You
years,
are
10 years.
you are a slave, and you know you came off a boat where you was all bundled up. So there is like cattle. So that respect of citizenry does not exist to the full extent,
But it was the
you
gimme
know.
gimme. It
And we
was
have
the
to
gimme
change.
gimme mentality, eh?
And
And
then
that's
we
that's
have
what
to change
got the
the
votes.
lawlessness that was
Yeah,
encouraged by PNM.
yeah,
They didn't really look where we reached, you
yeah,
know. And it's good. You're going up. It's like you're going up the floor now. We're trying to change this,
yeah.
you
I
know.
was I was very much involved in the Prime Minister's children's Christmas treat. Right, when Prime Minister Kamala Prasad Biswas and the People's Partnership, we did the Christmas treat throughout the whole country. Right, I was the head of ODPM at the time, and we provided logistics and the PTSC buses and the busing of all those children from all those remote areas, and we brought them into to the areas, and we gave them these gifts, and it was a seamless movement of people. Right, Peter Kanai was involved in that. He was the one who worked with the Prime Minister. Eli Zakur, all of these fellas were involved in us, and we did treats in Tobago and whatever. And I remember going to Tobago. I remember going to Port of Spain, right, in the back of Belmont and all this, where we gave gifts and the people coming out, and you're hearing them in the back here. Man, take the gift, man. They're giving we, let me give we, they're giving us ticket, and we're gonna vote PNM back. You know what I mean? And they're telling you that right there. We taking it from you, and we voted PNM. It's not a matter.
Yeah.
The Prime Minister obviously didn't care who they vote for, because that's the kind of lady she is. She wanted to give the children the gifts. You understand what I'm saying? But the PNM mentality was gimme. If I give you something, you will vote for me for life, right? So I am so happy that our government now is not into that gimme mode. And I think that with the CPEP and URP revision, with the whole revising of the system, that's a good signal, because that was another gimme kind of thing, which
Well, you have to eliminate that kind of that
yeah,
battle for contract, you
yeah,
know, and you make them an employee,
yeah,
and you have and the people who need who would benefit more than those who hoard in contract,
yeah. So
you
I'm
know.
so happy. I'm so happy because when the People's Partnership was there, we gave a lot of people the same gimme thing, and they didn't vote for us after 5 years. You understand what I'm saying? So we are. I am happy that they are taking the approach where you're going to have to do something to get your returns. Right? Yeah, you have a disaster. We'll give you help. You need it, right? But you're gonna have to work to build yourself now. We're not gonna just give it on a gold spoon. You know what I mean? And I think that is the attitude that we have to take. But at the same time, we have to look at the subtle things, the subtle needs of what people want, the simple things in life, You go to a hospital, you get to see a doctor within a certain time. You don't have to wait 10 hours, right? You go to a hospital, you don't have to go and buy your drugs outside, you get your drugs, right? If you have a lump in the breast, you can get to see a doctor right away and have a lumpectomy within a few days and have your cancer diagnosed
And
and
blood
treated.
and blood test results comes in within in a short period of time
You
before you
do a
leave the
blood
hospital.
test, right? And you go on your phone, you go on the app, and when you open the app,
Get
your
the
blood test result
results.
is on the app. You
No, but I'm just
understand?
when you're in a hospital
Right.
and we don't know what's wrong with you, you should be able to get that test results
Yes.
before you leave the hospital.
You call the ambulance, your father get a heart attack, ambulance reach, you have a paramedic come out to the ambulance, you put up a drip on the man after you do your after you do your resuscitation, they take his heart down to San Fernando casualty, they do a intervention, they reperfuse him, get his heart going, you save the man, he come back, he talk to you for a few months, he get his everything in order, he get his will and thing in order, and then fine. At least you give him a chance to sort out himself. You understand? That's the beauty of the paramedic system. So all of these things, that's what we need. We need that in this country. We need that now. Yeah.
You
Doc,
see, we
just what,
need, that's
Doc,
why we have to prioritize these
yeah.
things, Doc.
Yeah.
These things, these are more important things than all the big fancy buildings which we're planning.
Yeah. We
And this is
forget,
what is going, this is
Samad, we
what is going
forget.
to win us the
Just
election.
the other day we talk about the lady who ran into the bridge and died, right? We
Yeah,
talk about the
yeah.
lady who went in the river and she get caught up and she drowned.
They be by the market there. Yeah,
Yes. And the other lady who drowned in the little river up in the patch there, right? Now,
yeah.
the fellow run off the road in Tobago and he died in the river. We talk about this and after a few months we forget.
Yeah. Doc, just to add to one thing you mentioned about response time, ambulance, and so forth, do we have a medevac system where a helicopter can land in Manzilla,
The
some in the
and
beach,
answer
and pick
that
up
is
someone?
no. The answer to that is no. What has happened right now is that you can call the commercial helicopter where they don't have a proper medevac helicopter. It's an ordinary helicopter, right? With ambulance bags and kits and whatever. But it's not a properly equipped medevac, right? I know that the Indian government has said they will assist them with the water ambulance, if I remember correctly, right? So
Yes.
that would at least take into consideration when we move people from Port of Spain to Tobago, right? That would kind of look at that because we did have a few times when those boats had some problems out there. So yes, but that needs a lot of training. That needs
But
search and rescue, land and sea
yeah,
training. You need drills. This is not simple. This is not something you just say, okay, I bring a boat and I have the boat out there to save people. It's not as easy as that. We have to have competencies, trainings, drills. You know what I mean? So
well,
underwater,
yeah,
you know,
yeah, correct.
training,
Because in Tobago, like if someone gets sick and they really need medical attention in Trinidad, they use the Army helicopter
yeah,
with the medical personnel on the
yeah,
flight. Because my wife used to always be on the from the Tobago to Port of Spain or Mount Hope as a
mm,
colony. It costs $5,000 a trip, so
mm,
but the government pays that.
yeah.
That's why someone is thinking of running a helicopter service between the two hospitals,
Yeah.
and that was the
But
costing, which
we definitely would need to have all of those things in place. Once you're providing once you intend to provide even at the children's hospital, when you begin to
Mhm.
provide proper care for the children, you have to have a helipad that allows
Helipad.
the helicopter
Yeah,
land, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
and it has to be done within civil aviation guidelines. You have to have proper equipment, and when you bring in that child in a situation, just to take the child from the helicopter to the hospital, you have to have paramedics and doctors. So all of
Mhm.
those things have to be, put in place. It's not these things have been done in other countries. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but you have to have them, and you have to drill them and have the competencies and people to manage it.
Yeah, because if we're thinking along the line of first world, we will need to expand, our services in terms of the
And
healthcare.
this is why I'm suggesting the concept of a private approach to certain key services in the country. One of them, obviously, is healthcare. But if we can start with the pediatric services at Cuba, that could be a test piece, right? When you look at
Yeah.
the cost efficiency and effectiveness, and people are not going to lose their jobs, is that the company will have to hire nationals first, obviously, as part of the agreement, so that we will still continue to hire our people. But when these people come in now and they start working, and they get the good welfare, and they get good training and on the job training, and they get the drills, and we have exchanges with foreign universities where we could send them to other hospitals and get a week of training and come back, and I mean, all of these things, you guys in the US can help from your end of it. You understand what I'm saying? You would get a standard of care that is easy to achieve, because we already have a good standard in Trinidad. We're not bad. People might think we're bad, but we're not bad. All we need to do is to streamline it, right? Cut out the little redundancies here and there, start measuring our practice, start benchmarking our practice, right? And start looking at your planning for the next 5, 10, and 15 years in terms of your population. That needs a lot of audits. It needs a lot of research and into current data, past data, right? It needs to look at trending, to look at how you're trending, and you have to look at regional and global trends, because we didn't know COVID was going to come, right? The answer to that is yes, we did, right? We knew that COVID was going to come. We knew that there was going to be a pandemic. We just didn't know when, but we had to start planning for it, right? So these are the things that maybe we didn't plan as much.
Definitely.
And flooding. I mean, Ken, you always script over flooding, and it's not it's something. Flooding is here to stay, no matter whether we like it or not. The current
And
science of disaster risk reduction in terms of flooding is that you have to live with the water, right? You cannot avoid the water or block the water. You have to live with
absolutely.
the water,
You
right?
have to
Absolutely.
manage the water.
Yes,
You
right.
have
So
to
you have to.
manage.
Yep.
That's what they learned in New Orleans. They was trying to block the water all the time, and when they get it in their ass, they
Well,
realize
even
they
in
have to
the
go back to the
lands,
Dutch. They have to go back
well,
to the
even in
Dutch and
Dutch,
understand what the
Gary.
Dutch is saying.
We
The
have some
water
very
runs through.
controllable things that we just kind of, my grandmother used to say, puhar. That's how
Yeah.
we manage things. We
Yeah,
manage it
yeah,
puhar.
yeah.
Well, Doc, even the Dutch, they are realizing that those structures that they built is going to work
Yes,
against them,
because
and
the,
they
the
now
way the
have to learn to
climate is
live with the
changing.
water.
Yes, the way the climate is changing. So you see
Correct.
now the thing about it is it served them well. It served them well in the past. I mean, you weren't hearing about massive floodings in Holland and all this other thing, which is under sea level.
Listen,
You weren't hearing
Yeah.
about that
we
in the
was
past.
just surrounded by people who was in politics for their own greed and not really
Yeah,
have to care. They throw you some crumbs, and you're happy and you dance and you think you're all right, but
yeah.
not looking at the big concept. The
No,
UNC has a different perspective, and
yeah.
they don't seem to understand that.
Yeah,
Well,
but we need to sell that. We
yeah,
need to
that
sell
sell
that
it.
perspective to the
Yeah,
population so that
selling it.
we can remain for another 5 years. That is the problem, the
Yeah,
core of it all.
And
If
but
we
Sabah,
want
I
to,
think we can
Wine and
achieve that.
jam,
Eh?
who dead, dead, and we are fat and merry, and then you want to know
Yeah.
why you didn't have nothing, right?
Yeah, and Savan and Gary, I want to be very straightforward here. We have to focus on the small things that are affecting the people and
yes,
ah,
solve it at that level,
yes,
right?
that's
And
the
that's
yes,
point.
very, very important and key.
yes,
That is like the icing in the cake.
Yeah,
yes,
these
The
things,
flooding
these has to be
reformers.
immediately. It has to be
Correct,
dealt with
correct,
immediately.
Because
yes.
that
right?
is what is going to win you the election
Correct,
next time
correct,
around.
correct. Make a
The,
But
make a
listen to me.
visible,
Just for
make a
example, those
visible
people
impact.
that I introduced you
Yeah,
to, Ken, they are
yeah,
giving us a listening ear because they have some faith in what I told them, right?
and
Because they
confidence,
were
correct.
they had mentally given up, so they're holding on to what we say now.
yeah.
Well, one of the
One
guys
thing.
said for 40 years he's been dealing with the same problem,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I told him, I
Yes,
said, look, we're not here to implement sluice gate and stuff. We're here to implement appropriate technologies, right? We understand the problem. We have implemented structures. We're going to come out there, make the assessments, and we're going to put together a design proposal. And that is the next step. So I believe, Gary, in as I mentioned, that we have to set up a meeting on this platform with those farmers, right?
Yeah,
So
I
everyone
think it's
can
good
hear.
by Saturday, the guy's working
Yeah.
on it.
And let the whole nation and all of the viewers see exactly their stories, right? We could talk about flooding in the Sangre Grande, but it's a different perspective when you hear the victims themselves being inundated year after year and just waiting on a subsidy, right? So that would be a nice program, and we'd like to hear what they have to say.
Yeah.
And of course,
Agreed.
we are going to present solutions.
Yeah, correct. I think once you could make a visible impact on flooding, traffic congestion, right, in key areas, into Port of Spain, into San Fernando now is becoming a problem. Crime, right, the homicide rate and the suicide rate. What else? Finance, economy, economics, the foreign exchange, right? Those are very, very important areas that we have to make a visible dent in.
That is critical. That is
Yeah.
critical.
Healthcare.
With moving
Yeah.
forward, yes.
Yeah.
Doc, the level of service, right?
Yeah.
We can rate it from
Yeah.
a F to a A,
Yeah.
and say, you know what, this hospital here, based on the qualitative response from
Yeah.
patients and
Yeah.
end users,
Yeah.
they're rating it a E.
Right.
And
You see,
let's see how we can move that to a
th-
C.
this has been
So
our
unless
problem,
we
my problem.
benchmark,
Yeah.
unless we
This is that we
benchmark,
covered. You
we
see,
don't know whether we're going
Sumant,
forward or backward.
you take the
Yeah.
word right out of my mouth. If you are to improve something, you need to know what you're improving it from.
Exactly.
Right? You need to know if you want to go for the B, you have to go from A to B. And to get the B, you have to know where A is. And we talked
Right.
about this, Ken, long before you were on the program. This is what Samantha and I and I think Doctor
That's
and a
nice.
couple other people were
That's
talking
I
about.
mean,
Well, in transportation
Yeah.
engineering, we call it the level
Yeah.
of service, the LOS,
Yeah.
for a
So
road.
we need
Right.
our guys, right? I mean, we give them time. Every one of them was saying that they're doing an assessment of their ministry. Remember that? In May,
yeah.
June, July, we said, okay, we'll wait until the budget, right? But we asked for a few key indicators to be reported back, right? And we suggested that we meet with the Ministry of Public Administration, right? And possibly planning, so that if we could meet with them and they're allowed to meet with us or meet with the party, and we could talk to the party people if they don't want us to meet with the ministry. The intent was that we would help each minister or PALSEC, right, to develop a suite of indicators, to ask the technical people to provide these data to us, right? So
Yeah.
that we can assist by developing a cascading set of indicators, a scorecard, a dashboard that will allow them to monitor and assess where they are. So, for example, what is your current national average waiting time in all your hospitals, right? For key services in a health sector, for example. Good. What is your key waiting time in Sangre, in Eastern compared to RHA, Tobago, whatever, and just using waiting time as a key indicator. So we need to know that, right? We know mortality rate, right? We know morbidity. We might know morbidity rate because we have the data of people going into hospitals and whatever. But we don't have some of the other performance indicators in the health sector that will tell us whether we are benchmarked with Mount Sinai, you know what I mean, or Jackson Memorial, or Caesar, Cedars, Cedars, Lebanon, or whatever.
Cedars.
Yes, he does. So Kaiser Permanente, all of these people, these people have benchmarks and indicators. How many falls in a hospital? How many falls in a hospital? That is a very important indicator. How many what we call nosocomial infections? How many infections that are obtained in a hospital? That benchmarks the hospital. That tells you where they are in terms of a global performance. These things, Minister Bodo and Minister Rishi has to get, and they have to share it, maybe with the advisory team here, because then we could sit down now and say, good, based on the manifesto that Sumant helped develop, is that manifesto going to take us to point B? Because we have point A. But it will be very hard for us to go and tell people we did something and we move it from A to C if we don't know what A is. And I think that we really, really need to, maybe in the new year, if we lost it already for this year, maybe to sit somehow and convince them that we need to get this suite of data, or at least if we don't get it, you tell us, you get it as the minister. You call your meeting with your boards and your CEOs and whatever. You appoint all your boards, right? You appoint very soon. They're going to appoint all the CEOs. Get them to give that to you. And if you are satisfied that you know where you're going to take it with the manifesto, we fine with that. If you don't
Yeah,
share
yeah.
it with
Yeah,
us.
correct,
Yeah,
correct.
And that will
yeah,
be a measure of performance also.
clearly. And you're doing that in local government in terms of your drainage, your works, and whatever. You know what I mean? They are
Yeah,
key. Ken, you could definitely come up with a suite of indicators that they need to tell you, and that will give you an idea
yeah.
of are they ready for flooding, and
I will
what
Yeah.
they need to do.
I will
You
send
know?
something that is used in transportation engineering, the LOS,
Yeah,
level of
yeah,
service,
yeah,
how these roads are classified and how they get that information, that
yeah,
qualitative information
yeah,
from the end
Mm-hmm.
users.
yeah,
And they
Mm-hmm.
rate the road from an
yeah,
A to an F, A being the
Okay.
best, F the worst, right?
yeah,
And then you as a planner, as a government say, hey, we have a road that's rated a F here. We are going to now design a design proposal to see how we could move it to a C. And
yeah.
this
Correct.
is the design here, and this is what we want the capital expenditure. So
Yes,
the end goal is to now move a roadway from an F to a C. And if you can adapt that for all of the ministries and all the different sectors, we are going to be very, very successful. And
I had
it is a measure also of your performance.
correct. I had an incident really in Tobago. You know, there was carnival 2 weeks ago in Tobago, and we had 40,000 people, I guess from the Caribbean, Trinidad mostly, that descended upon Tobago. Now, Tobago population is 65,000 people. In other words, you have for every Tobagonian living in the island, you had 40,000 more persons. So basically, you had 65% more people on that weekend, the carnival weekend. The report is coming from them. Oh, we had a successful carnival because we had 40,000 people, more people in the island. Okay. What about the demand for water? Could you imagine? Think of it as Trinidad. You have 1 million more people in Trinidad for a weekend. What about the transportation system? What about the water? What about electrical consumption? What about food, sanitation? You just name it. But the consensus is the person in charge of tourism is telling me, hey, we had a successful tourism. We had 40,000 more. So they measured the success
by the number of people who attend.
by the number of people in the island. Now, that is maybe your way. There's something called tourism satellite accounting, which means all these other islands and the big Miami, they tell you, okay, we're having the boat show this weekend. Come Saturday and Sunday. Monday morning, they tell her it's a 50 million spin-off profit we made from the industry. Quantitative figures. Don't want to hear word of money. We had a nice, quantify it.
Yes.
And with that quantification, now you have a benchmark, you have a base level. So next year you want
Yeah.
a 10% more. We want to do 55 million next year.
Oh, yeah.
Now you can have
Let numbers talk.
less people. You could next year you could have 30,000 people in Tobago,
Yeah.
and the carnival can be even better because the spend. That spend is what you measure.
Yes.
Correct.
You know, so these I laugh, but and they are literally like the minister. And when the minister is talking this pack of crap, and I'm sure he will do the same thing again. In Trinidad, they will do the same. We had a successful carnival, man. We had so many visitors, approximately 200 million profit. How the heck you can measure it when you don't measure the
Well,
indicator?
it's the same thing
I
anyway.
laugh.
A doctor will tell her, the minister, the CEO, I did 150 hips. That's a successful thing. 150 hips. And next thing you know, it's about 100 of them dying because when they go, they
Yeah,
carry their
correct,
health.
correct. That's the point. So we have to get into that culture now. You know, as I think you, Doc, mentioned it, these big buildings that they're planning, you have to house it, workers inside there.
Yeah.
And if they're not all current with the technology up to date with their facts and figures and exactly what they're doing or measuring or going to delivering, then we the same. Not the buildings does not change. It does not change. your third world status from a second or first world status. Is the workforce, the mentality, exactly what you're doing. You want to add value to things. You want to add value to your healthcare. You want to add value to your education system. You want to add value to a legal system and so on. Your value added is what is important. That is what you have to check. And so the buildings doesn't impress me at all. It's exactly the benchmarking and where you're going to reach in year 2, 3, 4, 5, and onwards. And that is how.
Well, Sumad, the end point here is to improve the quality, right, of service, the quality of life for people, right,
Mhm.
from crime to flooding, etc. And there are some things we have to prioritize, and that
Right.
has to be done within or even before this 5 years or 4 years
Correct.
is up,
That's what I'm
right?
saying all along.
And that is a
I've been
priority.
saying that. I am saying that. As it
You
wouldn't be
know,
an election.
traffic congestion, flooding, crime, some job
Health,
creation, and turning
health.
around the economy, whether we open up Petrotrin or we bring in the Chinese or whoever, right? We want to see end results. We want to have that performance matrix and be able to measure the success. And I think
All
we need
right.
to take a new initiative in these ministries and these different government sectors and now assess the current, have a scale, right? A performance measure, have a scale where we can now rate them. What is the existing rating, right? Or present rating for the healthcare system or hospital somewhere in South? And how could we improve on that, right? So we now set those goals. We tell the people, hey, this is where you are and this is where you should be in 2
But
years, or
but
we'll look,
Ken,
we'll assess it by quarters. First quarter,
correct.
second quarter, write a report and tell me what you're
Uh-huh.
doing and how you're
All
revising
right.
that to improve on efficiency,
All right.
service, etc.
But you know,
And that is the approach.
we identified that Doc can testify. We said these things around May.
Yeah,
Around May month. Exactly the process.
yeah.
But we're
But
not
let me
seeing
tell
it.
you what. No, you wouldn't see. You don't. you, may, you would not be seeing that. I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
Each ministry have their own sets of advisors, and these guys are very limited because they have never had to do these things before.
Yeah.
The ministers have some leeway in that the ministers by right can appoint 5 persons to be with them, and one of them is an advisor position. So he brings in, hey, someone is a good guy, I know him, that's my friend, man. He's my advisor. So you see what's going on. Ministers bringing their friends as advisors. The ministry itself has their own advisors. 9 out of 10 times, they collude or they don't collude or whatever it is, but nothing gets done because there is no way that nobody to drive the process, basically. And that emphasizes the need for that external think tank which we're talking about.
Listen to me. I have a very strong feeling that we will not be engaged. Okay.
No, I know that, Gary.
All right.
I know that they
All
wouldn't
right.
take us
Because
in
I have seen all indicators that my instinct are that we will not be engaged because we more like a threat to
correct.
the environment. All right. People are batting for turf. All right. But we will sing what we have to sing right here so that it is known that we said it.
Correct, Gary,
And,
correct.
and all the trends point to the same thing. It happened in 86, it happened in 95, it happened in 2010, and the same pattern. And this is how you can tell the same pattern is recurring for the 4th time. That's why when we won the election, I say, let me draw on my experiences whenever I was here for change of government. And this is the same damn thing which is happening now.
No, we are seeing, the police commissioner is making some efforts, but we also are seeing that he continued to be undermined by certain members of his team, that are involved in crime. And, there is no way that we can make the success that we want. We changed government because we wanted to get rid of that kind of process. In the sense that that is why the people made so much effort. So we can't have people within the force that is undermining our objective to secure the country, to make citizens feel safe, to make visitors feel safe. So there has to be somewhere where we deal with this issue.
Well, I'm
So
suggesting
that is the pushback, Gary. That is
that
the
we do
pushback
two
which you
things.
get.
One of the most important things is some degree of respectful documentation, right? In the sense that maybe we will at every month we do like a report to state that, look, these are some of the things that we recommend, right? And we send it to the boss, and we send it to the relevant ministers in terms of that section. Like Ken, when you talk about drainage, and I would talk about health sector, maybe disaster management. Sumant, you're looking at other things, in terms of IT and tourism and your competencies. Gary, you're looking at political stakeholders and strengthening Tuku, Manzanilla, Chaguanas West, and some of the weaker constituencies that need to be worked on even now, right? To get people to vote for us in these marginal type constituencies, right? So if we do that, it means that we'll be repeating ourselves. But whenever the shit hits the fan, we know that we have some documents that they could refer to or could be referred to after to say, well, look, we have been asking you to get the simple things right. Every month we would send you this letter and say, well, PM, we thank you very much for what you're doing. We support you. We still want to reiterate that we need to have a baseline assessment of all the ministries in terms of the services, the people-centered services, in keeping with your manifesto. And this would involve having a suite of indicators that should be provided to the honorable ministers by the technical advisors of the relevant ministries and statutory authorities. Right? Nice sentence. And every month
that's
we
good
keep on
stuff.
sending it to them. Right?
That is good, and that's the management style
Yes.
that
So
we have
once
been
you
taught
do that,
for
we
results.
and all of us put our names underneath, because
Yeah.
what we are saying is that we're not going against the government, we're supporting you. But in order for us to have longevity, in order to have sustainability of power,
This is the thing.
to sustain and maintain what you are proposing in your manifesto and, of course, your vision plan, we honestly feel, looking at it as out of the forest, we're not in the forest. We don't go to functions. We don't open events. We don't meet the stakeholders. We're not talking to the advisor. We're looking at it from out the forest in a very objective and in a very, what we should say, in a
No,
very collective and subject matter expert way. Right?
that
This is what we suggest that would be embedded in what you're doing. Is to support you rather than to go against you. Is to facilitate the achievement of your goals rather than to rather than to inhibit them. It's to
right.
strengthen your position rather than to and you keep repeating that last paragraph every month, right? Make it nice and
That's
nice and short. Sumant, you know how to do it. I like how your
But
Yeah.
your
Doc,
style
I,
is
I like to
summarizing.
put it in a way that
Yeah.
in the context that we are a risk management quality control
Yeah.
team, in the
Right.
sense that that
right.
is our objective. We are here to watch the PM back and watch your government back to make sure things does not go in a way that it will damage her reputation and her ability to deliver the kind of quality of service that she intends to do.
Right.
Right, and
Now
and if there is
that's
anything
good.
that will create risks,
Yeah.
then we need to
hmm
notify her, and that is
Right.
our mission.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're
Now,
sending it. We're
Gary,
sending it to the office of the Prime Minister via the official email, right? Which would go to her desk, right? Her secretary that is dealing with it. We could send it to the constituency office in Siparia, because I understand that a lot of stuff that you have to send to her personally has to go to that office first
yeah,
before it goes to her.
yeah,
So
yeah.
once we do that, and to the Prime Minister, right? At least we know that she's. At least if they take it and drop it in the garbage or file it, going to send it every month,
Yeah.
right? I think that
The-
is what
Well,
we should do.
from
yeah, but
my end, it will go directly.
Yeah. But
Now, what's presently meaning, like also last weekend, I happen to have 3, 4 friends in senior, very, very senior positions in ministries. I couple of ministries well. And their feedback, I keep on asking these guys, well, what are you guys doing now? You say, boy, right now, in all the ministries, they're trying to break down the budget. Allocate this to this department A, B, C, D. They're trying to, allocate funds to the various departments within the ministry.
Yeah,
That
Suman,
is
but
taking
Suman,
time.
go easy with that. You know.
Yeah. So no, I know where I'm going with it. So that is taking up a lot of time. That's what I'm saying. Now, when they finish to that, then what is the next step? They're going to try to implement, right? You have the same people, the same public servants who have been implementing over the past 10, 15, 20 years. What do you expect? It has to be driven from the top. These advisors and ministers and so on it has to be driven by the top, especially the permanent secretaries, my friend.
yeah.
That's where the biggest problem is in all the ministries.
So
They can
you've been
stall the
there,
project.
done that, and you know the deal, and you know what their
Like,
objective is, and their loyalty is
yep,
not to us. They smile in our
no,
face, and they will do everything to
correct,
Just
stall.
buying
correct,
time.
So
Just buying time.
correct,
so this is
correct.
where, I mean, we need to really pay attention, and then we have to watch.
But
You know.
this is where the legislation is needed big time. This is what I said from the beginning. I
Let,
remember when they
let me
have to
just use a simple
bypass.
example. Let me just use a simple example. The last month in the Diwali Nagar, the place flooded, right? Are
The
we
last
going to
day,
wait?
yes.
Yeah, are we going to wait again next year, same time, and experience that same problem? Or are we going
And
to provide a solution and have it well documented with a design?
Thank you.
so this is the beauty about it, and I think this is what by sending those letters on a monthly basis in terms of, and we're not changing the narrative. The narrative is going to be almost the same. Summarize it neatly.
Observe, report,
Yes. Yeah.
observe, and report.
Right. And what we're asking for is we want to get an idea of the baseline. You already went about 8 months already into the year. We're going to lose Christmas a bit and a bit of Carnival, right? Your budget would have taken you something. You're currently in the budget. But what you're doing, and according to Ken and Suman, and what we're saying is that you're going to take your money, right? You're going to put it in a program, right? Let us use drainage, for example. You're going to put it into drainage. And what you're going to be doing is what the technical advisors will tell you is, okay, well, we had 25 contractors in the last 5 years doing drainage, right? Drainage is what? They will go and clean drains, right? Good. So how many meters of drainage did you clean in each one of your 14 municipalities? DB, how much you clean? Pinal DB, how much in Dego Martin? How much in this and whatever, right? So in other words, then, does the minister know how many meters of drainage are cleaned annually for the past 5 years, right? In terms of all your 14 municipalities and as a whole in Trinidad and Tobago, right? And if you know that, and you have 25 incidents of flooding, then your role.
I guess we lost Doc a little bit there.
So
But anyway,
if you're cleaning,
yeah.
1,000 meters of drainage, right, nationally, yes. If you're cleaning 800 meters of drainage in Pinal DB every year for the past 5 years on average, the money that they budgeted is less now. So you're going to give, instead of 20 contractors, you might give 15. So they're just going about the run of the mill. But what we want to find out is, out of the 1,000 meters of drainage that you cleaned last year, which equated to 15 floods, right, Ken?
Yeah.
Right? Are you going to improve that 1,000 to 2,000 so that you get less flooding? Because if you improve it from 1,000 to 2,000, you expect to have less flooding, don't you?
Correct.
Using drainage as one of the key indicators of flooding. Yeah? Yeah?
Of course.
Good. Let about garbage collection. Yeah? If you are saying that you clean 700 pounds of garbage 7,000 pounds of garbage per year annually, right? Annually, right? You dispose of 7,000 pounds of garbage per year, debris or garbage or whatever it is, right? And you want to increase that to 10,000 pounds or 15,000, then you're supposed to have less flooding because you know you could equate increased garbage, increased debris
Feeds
to
off
more
in the
flooding.
other. One
You
feeds off
understand?
on the other.
Good.
Correct.
Then you take drones and you go up on the highway and you say, okay, what about hillside clearing? Right? If you're saying that during the crop time and all this crop time, you notice that 40% of your hillside had denudation and hillside fires, right? And
Mhm.
clearing. Yes? But you now want to reduce that to 10% because if you reduce it to 10% and you have 20 incidents of flooding in the valley, you should get less, won't you?
Yep.
So our
Yeah.
point is that since May, we're saying we need to know how much dam drainage you cleaned last year. But nobody's telling us that
Nobody's going to
because
give you
you
that.
went for a
Doc, I
budget
go.
based on a return of expenditure that they keep telling you the same thing every year. So man, you know we went to go through that. Bring your form
Mm.
here. How much money we asked for last year? Well, this is what we're gonna ask for this year. That's how it
Snap a
works.
10% on the button.
You understand? So that's your return
Snap
of
a
expenditure. So
10%.
you send it back to them and you say, okay, I want 20 million and you get 10. Right? So you go down in each corporation now and you give the 10 corporation 1 million each and they say, okay, guys, we get $10 million less. So we have 1 million to work to. How much contractors we hire last year? 5, we're gonna hire 3. You understand? How much meters of
You
drainage we cleared last year? Well, we cleared 20 meters. Well, we only gonna clear 10 this year. So this is where we end up now going in the same cycle over and over, and then you have flooding and more flooding. So
And
we
let me
really
add
need to know
one
where we
more thing,
started.
Doc. Let
Yeah,
me add one more thing. The
yeah,
process starts back in April again next year because
yeah.
April you have to start doing the budget for the next year. So the whole, just check, you only have, maybe have from December to April to implement things for that year.
Yes,
Because for the new budgets coming in October next year,
yeah,
it starts in April with a
yeah,
mid-year review in June,
yes.
right? So
So
check out what happen. You start your budget for the next year in April,
yeah,
mid-year budget in June,
yeah,
new budget in August 1st. I mean,
yeah,
sorry, October.
yeah.
So that whole ministry is tied up in
Yeah,
budgeting,
yes.
budgeting,
This is
budgeting.
where the ministers are
Where
caught up. Yeah, they get caught up
correct,
in the
and then they have
forests.
their own things to
Yeah,
do now.
yeah, yeah,
So I don't blame the ministers. Trust
yeah,
me, I don't blame
yeah.
ministers there,
They get caught up. They
right?
get caught up
Big,
in the business, and
and
that's where
also
we have
now
to. Yeah, we have
in
to
their
kind of come from outside.
constituencies,
Yeah,
as
that's the
well.
next set of
They
work that they
cannot
have to go
even
and do. Yeah,
service the constituencies.
yeah, that's
You
true.
know,
That is true. Yeah, they have to do that. So I think this is I think this you asked what we could do. Maybe I think that's what we should do. Ask them to somehow ask the technocrats to assign a team to try to give them back a baseline. Ken, you could provide what are some of the metrics that they require to provide a baseline understanding of all the elements of flooding. Good,
Correct.
and some of that might cross ministries, obviously.
correct.
Um,
Yeah.
so and then I
Yeah.
would do health sector because that's easy for me. That's the easiest thing. I love that. That's the easiest thing, right? And not just pre-hospital care, which is ambulance, but hospital care, which is tertiary care, secondary care, and primary health care, which means your public service, your public healthcare service. You know, so I could do that very easily, so that once the honorable minister could ask the technocrats or the advisor even, he could task the advisor, right, to get this information, and the advisor could connect with us if they so desire. If they don't want to connect, fine. But we are just saying, look, this is what you should need. Because at the
Yeah.
end of 1 year, when you're doing your 1 year review, politically, that is, when you go to your rally and you sit down and you say, well, what did I do in 1 year? Then you should have been able to say, well, look, I took the waiting times from X to Y. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah. So, and
Correct.
to do that, you have to know what the waiting time is right now. And if
Yeah.
you keep on doing expenditures all of right now and budget and expenditure and meeting all the people and the nurses and the doctors and the vets and all these people every day, and you're going to open up a school and plant a plant, and your day is that, and you come to your constituency, you are going to get caught up that you're not going to get that basic information. So let us keep sending them the letters, and let us hope that somebody if we get out of all the ministries, you get one or two of the ministers for some reason sending us back the information, well, then we would have achieved something. Maybe.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
I really hope that we can
Yeah.
help. I'm prepared to help. And I think we have to get sanctioned. I
Yes.
mean, that blessings have to become from on top.
Correct.
That letter we forwarded last week, once we can get blessings and we can tell them, at least meet face to face and say, hey, look, we're here to help. Exactly. Sustainability, longevity of the party is our goal. Plan, we can do this, and this
Yeah.
to assist you along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The longevity of the party and the party holding government is a matter of life and death for me. That's how I
This
see
is
it.
the same thing. I don't want
I
us to
mean, I
go
think
through
we're
this.
all on that same page.
Yes,
So
yes,
this is
yes.
not a matter of just losing government. It's putting us in a predicament where we are back in the
The
jaws
square
of the
one.
enemy to destroy and kill our children and rob us and things like that. We fought for
Correct.
government for a sole purpose of safety, security, prosperity, and I mean, for those who wants to join us, I mean, is all welcome. But the thing about it is some people are so still damn blind-sided and contaminated with prejudice that they don't care about these things. So we have to focus on those who will listen to what we have to say, especially like those who came on board with us, and we have to maintain government keeping the service delivery. The service delivery. That's why I'm making so much effort with helping Sandy Grande, because we fought hard for the seat. We want to make sure that the people are satisfied with the level of service, that they see a difference. And
Correct.
now we didn't just come here to mama guide them for government.
Yeah. Yeah. And Gary, that's
Correct.
why I mentioned the farmers, we have to take care of them and fix that flooding problem that has been affecting them for decades.
Yeah.
Correct. That's
Again,
that's it.
we are that serious that is up to the team up there to collaborate with us, but we are ready to
Yeah.
go. And I
Yeah.
mentioned that yesterday, so I'm waiting on some response. But in the meantime, I think we're gonna continue to engage the farmers, and we're gonna do some of it here.
So what
Yeah,
Correct.
definitely.
my only addition to all of this is that we keep saying the same thing, and we waiting for somebody to respond. So we need to now document what we are trying to do, because
Yeah.
after a
Yeah.
while, if people keep not answering us or taking us on, it becomes frustrating, and it becomes you lose your zeal, you know. So because we have other things in life that we need to do if we are not being taken on or taken seriously. Yeah, we do, right? So
Definitely.
what I would, and we don't want to waste time. So the thing about it is that in order to do that, let's create a document trail. I am going to summarize what I need to get the Prime Minister and the Minister of Health, and maybe the National Security when it comes to disaster risk management and
Mm-hmm.
forensic medicine, right, which are my competencies. I will send a little short, like a bulleted, right, form, a bulleted set of thing, not too long, not too lengthy, just a bulleted type item sheet, right, that says this is what I would like to recommend that the minister obtain via his advisors from the technocrats at the ministry, right, and this is in order to X, Y, and Z, yeah, and I will send it to we we want to have somebody in the group or the team who will be able to collate it, and we create one document which we could review and send it to the boss, and then in each one of the
Doc,
different
run
ministries,
with it,
yeah,
run with it, run with
yeah,
it. Let's get it. Let's get. Don't hold
yeah,
back. Don't hold back at
yeah.
all. I know
So
you
I
could
will,
put that in a jiffy. You could put that together in a jiffy.
yeah, so I will do my part, and then Samantha and maybe Ken, you could do your part, and then if you
Definitely.
want to get the other boys, maybe the economics and whatever to put their part, you know what I mean, so we could get everything sorted out, and then we could send it via email. We would have to get maybe from Nicholas, maybe Nicholas or Barry, the actual email of the office of the Prime Minister, that it will go to her. And then, of course, in the constituency in Siparia, we would
Mm-hmm.
probably have to get that Siparia email, right? And of course, well, Gary, we all have the boss email, but I'm not sure if she
Well,
reads it or
it's good. It's going to get delivered in more ways than one.
Good,
By
right.
drones, by helicopter.
Good, right.
I
So,
mean,
yeah,
satellite. It's
good.
coming. It's coming.
Right. So what we were gonna do though is we have to get someone to get the numbers of the parliamentary secretaries. I think they are the ones who have a direct connection with the minister if the minister might be too busy. And the parliamentary secretaries might be able to give us an email of the actual secretary of the office of the minister, if you know what I mean, rather than the minister's email. But the minister is not going to read his email half of the time. So what we wanted to get is to the secretary, so it gets in the database, because the secretary cannot throw away those emails. She has to file that and put that away. In other words, and it has to be received in the public service. What they call it again?
Timestamped. It's timestamped.
Right. It has to be timestamped. So once you get an
Filed.
email, good. Right. So we need to put it in there so it's there. So if I come 2 years, 3 years down the line and what we're asking for is not provided, good, and anything happens, we're not going to want it to happen, of course, but we will try always to make sure it doesn't happen. The natural progression or the position of inertia will allow for things to happen that will not be good, and they will have to review what they're doing. If you don't do it this way, clearly, you wouldn't know what you're achieving.
Yeah,
Right?
that's
And
right.
it will fly back. It's going to happen. It's not a prediction. It's a forecast, because it's a scientific probability thing. Prediction is for a different kind of people. We are not predictors. We are forecasters, and it is based on data.
Based
Correct.
on the data.
Yeah.
That sounds like a plan.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's
So I'll do mine, and I'll send it up for the guys. I'll send it up for you guys, and we make it brief as possible so that the email is not a lengthy email. And once we do that, well, hopefully we start documenting it, and we will have it in our own email. So we could talk every time we're talking. We will know that this is what we are asking for. This is what we're asking for. We're not getting it. This is what we're asking for.
Right.
Sooner or later, somebody have to take us on.
Well, let's see. I hope.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing about it is that the beauty about documentation, the biggest problem we have in the health sector right now in forensics is documentation. People lose plenty of money because of poor documentation right now, especially in the health sector. They're paying off millions of dollars right now to people who suing them for negligence because they don't document properly in the health sector. And I'm sure it's happening in other areas.
Well, look at national security, the TTPS.
Yeah.
Right? There's a bunch of lawsuits there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that can be mitigated.
Yeah.
With better standard operating procedures.
Yeah.
You're right.
Well, the operating procedure is one thing. Is the staffing to follow through and follow up. You can have all the operating procedures you want, and the staff is not making sure that they are following up and supervising properly the force. Then everything comes back to zero. And is this one partner and that one partner, and they partner here and they partner there. I know how they operate. I mean, not to say we don't know how they operate, but this has to change. We didn't change government. I keep saying we didn't change government to maintain the status quo. So the commissioner of police has to be spoken to at some point to say this is what we're expecting.
Yeah. One of the key things is that incident reporting is something that it allows you to determine the tip of the iceberg. Incident reporting is very important in all service lines, all ministries, right? And therefore, if you're saying that if you meet with your chief medical officer in the health sector, I'm talking about health now, you could put that in any other ministry. Your CMO is the chief doctor, right? And in charge of the health sector in terms of that. And there's a chief nursing officer as well in the ministry, right? Those are the key people. The CMO now is supposed to really look at your public health, which is all your CMOHs, right? But he also is a manager, right? And supposed to meet with the CEOs of all the RHs too, because there's something called a service level agreement, which is what the ministry.
SLAs, yeah, the SLAs.
Yes, the service level agreement is what the ministry tells the RHs that they have to achieve. So he actually has to be a CEO. The CMO has to be a CEO and manage all the primary healthcare and secondary and tertiary healthcare systems, and then say to the minister via the advisor or whatever, look, this is where we are. So therefore, really and truly, there must be a structured meeting between the the CMO and the CEOs, right? As well as the CMO and the CMOHs, because these are your two levels of healthcare, right? And once that is happening, then the CEOs are supposed to report back to the CMO key indicators that tells the minister where he is and whether he's achieving his goals or not. So that, in a nutshell, is what we want to hear. And if we don't get that, then crap or smoke healthcare pipe is the same thing to happen over and over. You know? That is the problem.
But
That's what we wanted there. Because if you don't do that, how you achieve your manifesto? Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Doc, we all want the same thing, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, at least let us say that is what we want to hear,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And let us see what happens.
By the way, I saw they're looking for a general manager at the North Central
Yes.
for secondary and tertiary healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you saw it. I said,
Yeah,
I'll tell you.
I saw that.
Okay.
I saw the director of health for
Correct,
Southwest,
yes.
you know.
Right. But they probably have their folks.
Yeah. There are people who are already telling people they get the job already. So what to do?
Yeah.
I was in Canada in a lounge coming down in the airport in Canada, in Toronto Monday, and a guy telling, and we meet them in the lounge and we live in, and he say, "Hey, you hear this guy say you get it?" I said, "Okay."
I hear certain guy getting posted to Miami in the consulate, and they're out of the scenes, but they're saying it through the grapevine. They're telling you, well, I'm going to be the next consulate in Miami. All right.
That's all right. That's what? I'm
Yeah.
happy for them. It is what it is.
Yep.
At
That's
least let
right.
us do our part, and then hopefully we get a chance within the next 5 years. Because the tragedy is you to suffer 10 years of not being able to participate and improve the country, and then you have a 5 years where your people come in, and then you're not getting it to do it again.
Correct.
So that's the tragedy. So let's
Yep.
at least we can try, because we have people who we know or inside there, not who know us maybe, but who we know, and let us hope that it can bring back some level of return, so that my grandchildren and great grandchildren could have at least a better chance than we had, when that something we're trying to improve. I would love to see, if it's one thing this government could do, is to improve the ambulance system, at least to get people more manageable into the cardiac centers. That's a simple thing they could achieve. Just one thing they could do within this year, if they could come out in public and say, I have made it better for people who get heart attacks or who are in the road in a car crash, that we could save their lives a little better instead of taking them dead on arrival to the hospital.
And that is a measurable outcome you could use.
Yes,
Yeah,
of course.
yeah.
Do your PR.
I want Bodo to come at the end of the year and tell the people that he did this. And that's a big thing.
This ambulance system, it's something that it needs to be get done with immediate effect. We need to really put things in order. I mean, it's not something to play around. We have had we are losing people every day, just because of the fact that things are not in order. We are not prepared at the hospital to receive an ambulance. Doctor, I don't have to spell it out. You know how that thing operates.
Yeah, as I said, you have children who have been shot, and when they reach the ambulance picking them up dead, right? The
Yeah.
ambulance arrives, and you could still put in a drip on this child. You can't put up a drip to save the child's life. They're more resilient than adults. You could probably still save a child, and they die, and they die, and you're hearing them, they're dead. So I mean, the point is, come on. I mean, so uh,
It's still the who dead kind of system that we have to flush out,
well, it's
because
easier.
yeah,
It's easier to take them in dead.
So this is something critical, and I mean the structure that we were talking about. You need a system where that also accommodates training for volunteers within the community range, so
Yeah.
that they can assist
Yeah.
until the paramedics get there.
Correct.
And I mean here where I live here, I mean you could be a teacher and you're a certified EMT, and you stick your blue lights in your car, and you hear a call and you
Yeah.
Correct.
respond because you happen to be within the area. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
Correct.
if
Correct.
it takes 40 minutes or 15 minutes for ambulance to take a critical person to hospital without a drip, yeah. And if you could put up a drip on the scene and give that guy some fluids and body expanders, fluid expanders to take him, you might give the man a chance. So that's that's the
15
thing.
minutes. We
Yeah.
take it out maybe an hour and a half just to make up the mind where the ambulance coming from.
So yes,
Yeah, but
this is definitely something I
it
would like
is.
to see that our government work very quickly and improve. In my
And,
at my end,
and the concept that we could have people trained within the community who can assist, that concept, there were a lot of people interested, when we attempted to, where you could have a teacher in a school who is capable of assisting until the ambulance get there. This is something that we need to get going,
yeah,
and it is taking too long to get this up and running. It is taking
yeah.
too long. They think
And you
that this is
see,
a kind of joke.
one of the problems we had is that we when we train people, right, you have a certificate, right, or some degree of certification, and that is registered as a 3-year time or a 2-year time. It is valid for a certain time, right?
But you always have to
Because
upgrade, you always
right.
have to upgrade.
So in other words, then, if I could safely say, if the minister Khadija could say, the local government through the district disaster units and the training division in association with Red Cross and whatever, right, in the 14 municipalities, we have trained 15,000 persons in first aid and first responder training. Yeah, 15,000 people, right? And if she could come out and say that, and every year we are increasing that now to 20,000, 30,000, 40,000. These are the things that we want to hear her say. And once she could say that, it means that the local government will be doing their role in what you just said. Coming out of Jamaica, they had at least 20% of their communities trained in first aid, right? And that allowed very little number of deaths for that catastrophic event compared to Haiti in the same amount of impact, which means that they were more resilient than Haiti, right? It does show you there's a big difference in terms of the number of deaths compared to what Haiti would have had if the same impact had hit Haiti. So therefore, a lot of that came out because of what Gary just said. They had a lot of community training in first responder, right? And first aid training, right? And CERT training, community emergency response training. And I think that this is something that we will put in the note for Mrs. Amin, for Minister Amin, that we really want her ministry, right, under the disaster units to train at least 10 or 20% of the school population of teachers, right, and increase that by 10% every year, so that at the end of 5 years, you would have all your teachers trained in your schools, all your retired policemen and fire officers or whatever could come for training. So these are some of the things we could actually spell out for them,
Well,
right?
we'd also need how to say, officers that are currently on the job to be trained in this thing too.
Yeah,
I
of
mean,
course. But that will go to the that we want to put that to Alexander and his team, because we're gonna give the local government her role, but we, of course, the same letter will be going. Remember, we said we will send it to each one of the ministry, and I will deal with the disaster management, forensic management, and healthcare management. Right. So I will send those 3 letters, and one of it will be for him to train and make sure that they have certification of all these police officers, right? Every one of them should have first responder training, right? Because they are the first on the scene most of the time. We know that.
And
They reach before fire and ambulance.
especially the ones coming out of the academy now, that this should be included in the training.
Well, all of them who come through the academy, they do get the training as part of their course. What we have a problem with is the guys who are currently there in the station after 3 years, they don't get refreshers. That's the problem.
So you telling me, so that training is included in the course right now?
Yeah. Right now they get as part of the training in the police because we used to have to do some from ODPM for the academy, right? So we know that they get it. They also get incident command training as well. So after 3 years, some of them they don't do it because if they just don't continue,
Yeah, but the police car is not equipped with first aid equipment that the officer responding can assist, is it?
Well, I know for a fact that when I was in ODPM in 2011 to 2016, 17, we purchased first aid kits and we gave it to the police service to put in every one of their vehicles because they didn't have.
Right.
They don't. Some of them don't have. I'm telling you. And if they have, I'm sure that it have items missing.
Or somebody.
Yeah, I tell you. I'm sure.
Yeah. I know exactly where you're coming from.
I'm sure that's part of the audit and the assessment I'm telling you about.
Yeah.
Tell me, for example, how many first aid kits you have in each one of the police cars on the road right now.
Yeah.
And I bet you, if they really do it, nobody gonna do it. But we asking,
Yeah.
Definitely.
And sometimes you might have to ask with a legal letter because they would not respond to you.
Well, the good thing about it is that if something do happen on the scene, and the public get vexed and take pictures, and now they're taking pictures too bad, and a police officer don't save a child because there's no first aid kit, and we send in letters every month to the minister via the office of the minister through the secretary, and those letters are there every month asking for an audit of the first aid kits in the cars, not just the number, what the contents are and how soon they are, and all the first responder training. Every month they're going to get that letter from us, the advisory team for the Honorable Prime Minister. On behalf of the Prime Minister, we're going to send those letters to them.
Yeah, well, we need to raise that consciousness. So bring it to her attention,
Well, remember she getting the overall letter, them getting the individual letter.
She's dealing with a lot, so you got to remind her, she's dealing with a lot. You got to remind her.
Yeah. So I think that's the approach we should take, because if we take that approach, I think we would make some difference. If we don't and we just keep talking, nobody's taking this now to them. We're not talking to them. They're not listening to this program. Right, so it come like we spin it
they listen. There are a few of them that listen. Yeah.
And Gary, I want to take a classic example with the Diwali Nagar, right? I think if we solve a flooding problem, that's what we have is at the top of the list.
Well, Ken,
because
you are supposed that design that you're working on.
Once I'm done with that, I'm gonna jump on the Diwali Nagar and get something.
No, what I'm saying to you, but did they include it in the recommendation?
Yeah, all of that. I'll put all of that in the recommendation, right? Yeah. Because come next year, we can't have that place flooding again.
Well, right? I mean, we need the dredging and certain things. We also need some water pumps, to deal with that.
Yeah, we have to upgrade the subsurface drains there and isolate that whole Diwali Nagar, right?
Yeah.
And manage that runoff. So I'll put together a design, and that'll be part of the recommendation also. Come next year, let's hope that the problem is resolved.
Yeah. Well, you and I and Dr. Ramrup will talk more about that, going forward. Anyway, but
no problem.
But I want to really get that thing out to him as soon as you can.
Yeah.
Suman, do you have anything to say? Suman gone.
I think Suman left already. He had to do something.
Yeah. All right, guys. I think we covered it, right?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, Doc. All right, guys. So I wait your letters and recommendation.
Yeah.
As soon as you.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't mix matters in delivery.
No, I drafting it
Yeah.
because, as I say, I keep talking now, and it's like it just spinning top in mud. So I wanna do it the management way now.
Oh
Document.
yeah, no. I mean, listen to me. We hitting things in a multifaceted way.
Yeah.
When it's discussed here, it has to be delivered in an official capacity.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
And I mean, you are very capable of that, and you know what you're doing. So run with it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll send it off. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, run with it. Don't waste no
Definitely.
time. Run with it. All right, guys. So I will say good
All right,
night. Thank you
guys.
very much.
Thanks,
will be
Gary.
in
Have a good
touch.
night. Doc,
Uh,
take care.
All right. All right.
Okay.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay, guys.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.